Scott, would you as secretary call the roll, please?
You got it, Greg,
Here.
Gus,
Here.
Dan,
Here.
Claire,
Here.
Kimberly,
Here.
I'm here, Dan,
Here.
we're all here.
Okay. Pulling up the agenda for today. We begin with government reports. Now, let me just say that I had invited at the suggestion of one of our esteemed council members, Jim Pruitt of the Harbor District to come, and he was going to give us an update, but I do not see him in the audience. I do see Ray Mueller. I do see Harvey Warbeck. So Mike, since Jim Pruitt isn't here, I told him he could come on first, but he's not here. So would you mind giving your update for the county?
Actually, I give.
You there?
Oh, Ray's on.
Oh, Ray.
Yeah, Ray's here. Yeah.
Ray wants to say something.
You want to speak first, Ray?
Well, I'll just go ahead and I wanted to go ahead and update you on work that we've been doing. So.
All right, he's the boss.
Okay, so first off, we have I wanted to make sure everyone knows that we have a winter rainstorm coming next week that they're expecting to be significant. So we've already started talking with Caltrans and Public Works in advanced preparations for that to make sure culverts are addressed. We also are taking steps to make sure that there are sandbags appropriate, but we want to give people notice now to go ahead and start making preparations for those storms. Wanted to update everyone on the Measure K discussions that took place in the budget. I don't know how many of you were able to see that, but we had our Measure K priority budget hearings at the Board of Supervisors. During that time period, I was able to emphasize and get vote approval from my colleagues on the board to go ahead and emphasize infrastructure for the coast and specifically stormwater infrastructure, evacuation, in both evacuation route planning and evacuation route infrastructure. We're going to be looking at earthquake and fire plans, also looking at creating an evacuation center for the coast, the Midcoast, and that could also, and I, in the discussion, talked about the fact that we could also talk about making that a community center when it wasn't in use, and then also looking at healthcare. So all of that was looked to be prioritized within the Measure K. In talking with Robert Manchia afterwards, who does the finances for the county, he said that thinking about putting together infrastructure for the coast is a different way of looking at Measure K. And what will probably be done is that there'll be a fund set aside in Measure K specifically to go ahead and accumulate money over time so that we can spend from it to do the infrastructure projects on the coast. And I don't know if I mentioned, but I also included stormwater management infrastructure in that discussion as well. So that was very good and positive. All was approved, and the county is going ahead to go ahead and start putting together the process by which they start putting funds aside for those infrastructure projects. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I'm sick. The next item I'd update you on would be the CRISP. And so what's happening with the CRISP right now is that there was a grant application that was put out to NOAA for a significant amount of money to go ahead and bring in and help bring more dollars into that CRISP planning effort. I could not get an update from Adam Ely today because he is out sick presently, but I do have a scoping, an initial scoping meeting set on my calendar in the very near future. And so I'm going to stop coughing and everybody and see if there's just any questions you might have.
Questions from the council? Dan.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, hi Ray. I'm not sure if you're aware, highway flooded last year at the lower end of the Brussels sprouts farm right across from the airport. That little section, you know what do you know where I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. yeah, since, I've gone out there and kind of looked at that, over time and, so the culvert underneath is, I think it's about 50%, full of, silt. And then on the other side of, on the west side of the highway where all that water should drain, there's a drainage ditch that, drains out towards the structure it was at the Pilot Light, Cafe, where the MCC office, and then continues on, I believe, towards the harbor, the creek there. So that whole drainage ditch on the west side of the highway is not functioning, and that's part of the problem. It's filled with silt, and I took pictures. I sent them to Greg. I don't know where they are now. I could dig them up, but if I need to. But yeah, that's been a problem and as far as I know, nothing has been done about it since.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think this is, Ray, is this something we should just file a ticket and bring up through Mike?
Well, he mentioned that they was talking about Caltrans culverts
No,
and clearing because of the rain.
No, and I appreciate it. And honestly, if you could get me if you see areas along like that, and if you could bring it to my attention in an email quickly, because we are reaching out today. When I learned of the storm system coming in, I indicated that we have to be talking with and have a staff member talking to Caltrans and Public Works right now, specifically to identify culverts like that and get them fixed, because that is what happened last year with a number of the infrastructure failures we had. They were caused by filled culverts.
Okay,
And so-
Ray, I have a video of it. It's too big to email. I have a presentation with slides. Scott, take a note. I will send Ray the photos and a description of the problem.
Great,
And
I'll get
it'll-
it to Caltrans right away.
All right, thanks. Okay, any other council questions? Kimberly?
I have two questions. The first one is, I think that there was a special Board of Supervisors meeting recently that Sid brought up about the sheriff's oversight consideration. Could you just give us a quick update on that?
Yeah, we had a study session 2 meetings ago on oversight. Where the board landed was that the board is going to do, there will be an advisory body that works, that can be called to work with an independent investigator. The board's going to put out an RFP for an independent investigator to have one on call should an issue arise. The board, similar to Santa Clara County, is going to retain the subpoena power, but in the event that an incident arises similar to Santa Clara County, the board can delegate that subpoena power to the independent investigator. The board is also going to create public safety and justice committee similar to Santa Clara County, which goes ahead and looks at issues related to public safety throughout the county on an ongoing basis. And so, for examples, in Santa Clara County, the Public Safety and Justice Committee looks at issues like ambulance response time, issues in the jails, issues in juvenile hall, and it can also look at a myriad of things, both reform-minded, and then also looking at things. Also, for instance, one of the things I might look at now is we have a 100 person vacancy in our sheriff's department. And so how can we go ahead and start filling some of those positions? I would also look at license plate readers issues, such as the ones you were discussing before the meeting started.
Okay, great. And then the other question I have is there an update on the communications infrastructure needs?
I think you're talking about telecommunications? Okay.
So my understanding was there was, despite information that we were provided locally, what I've heard recently from the governor's office is that the monies that would come for the telecommunications still won't be until next year's budget. But the governor is putting it in his budget to go ahead and do complete our telecommunications project through the tunnel, and to give us redundancy. In the meantime, this winter, they are going to be providing a stopgap measure, so that if should telecommunications fail, that they will have a system in place so that people will still be able to use wireless. And I will be talking with them this week to make sure it's in place for next week.
And what
I'm
exactly?
assuming my assumption of that is that they're going to bring down and pre-position portable wireless towers to begin with. So that's what we had to do. We ended up doing last year. We had some portable towers down in Pescadero and other locations, but so my belief is that they're going to go ahead and pre-position those for storm systems.
Okay, thank you.
And I think, Ann, you had a question?
My question was, how should we request Measure K funds for items like stormwater? Particularly, we're working with some residents in El Granada, and there's an issue with stormwater coming out of Corey Park. And we've developed we developed an estimate and of what we think repair that would be helpful. And I just want to know, should that be a different type of submission since there's some money being put aside?
So this overlaps what you and RCD are doing already, Ray.
Yeah, so I very much appreciate the fact that you're that residents are coming up with plans, and please submit them. But what I've asked that we embark on doing is that we actually have a full stormwater management plan, not just for a specific area, but for the entire Midcoast. And so that, because we don't have one now, and we really need to, for a plan like stormwater management, you really need a comprehensive plan, because if you do it in one area and you don't do it well, it flows into another. And so that is in the pipeline to be done. But specifically with respect to Quarry, what I can tell you is the current thinking. I've gone out and I've looked at it with Nicholas Calderon, who has been tasked with it from the county executive, and we are in full transparency contemplating doing putting a sub pipe to run down to connect to where the other pipe system is further down the roadway. So rather than try to divert above ground, try to get it into a below ground piping system.
So Ray, we've had two presentations here on stormwater issues, and we have the intention of producing a report. I apologize. I'm part of the reason that report is late. Combination of illness and the other priorities I'm dealing with. I expect we'll have that report produced and available for the council to review on November 29th. And that will be a more comprehensive look at the Midcoast as you're requesting. It will Second Street. It will include the El Granada Quarry Park thing. So thank you for considering the request for the stormwater management system, because that's one of the fundamental things we're going to be asking for.
Yeah, we got to get it done. Complete agreement.
My only question is about the details. And I don't need an answer now, but we're going to wonder, when will we hear exactly what the Board of Supervisors is agreeing to do in terms of money and specifics for all the things you just mentioned that you'd asked for. And, so we'll follow up, I guess, through Mike to try and get those details, because I want to be sure that the details match the requirements.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No, absolutely. All of it gets done in public meetings. But the thing I want to say to you all, which is a big, I know it doesn't seem like, I know it just seems like verbiage, but it actually is a big deal that the money is being set aside to be saved for these projects. Because you can do all the planning you want in the world, but if you don't have the money set aside to start doing these projects, even on matches, then you can be in tough shape where you're really out searching for grant funding or special legislation. So it's a great thing that the county is going to start setting aside Measure K money for these projects.
Yeah, that is a great thing. We were supposed to have a lead-off presentation by Jim Pruitt of the Harbor District, but I see we have one member of the public who wants to ask questions.
Here.
I know he's here, but I don't want to recognize Jim until we handle questions from the public for Ray. Ray, if you wouldn't mind, Fran Pollard has a question, and then Sid Young in the audience has a question. So Fran, would you please unmute yourself and ask Ray your question?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, Ray. And my other concern besides Quarry Park is the highway. And since you mentioned, let you know, I'm very concerned about that sinkhole that's over there on the trail, and the coastal trail at Surfers Beach. And if a big storm really is coming this soon and they keep coming again, that's going to wash out the highway. And since you're in touch with the highway or Caltrans highway department, whatever, can you ask them if they're really going to wait till the highway is washed out before they do anything?
Okay, yeah, I've added it to the list of things to talk to Caltrans about this week, Fran. Thank
Oh,
you for
great.
bringing it up. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Sid, you're in person, so why don't we go to Sid, who's here in person? We do have hands up, but let's do to you because you're here in person. And then I'll go to the other people who are raising their hands.
Hi, Ray. I hope you're feeling better soon. And I have a few questions, though. First of all, thank you for getting the Marana Bridge finally up and ribbon cutting and all. Regarding Caltrans, can you let us know when they're going to plan to take away all the highway, we call it detour, K-rail, and clean that section of the highway up? Because it's still there, and the county signs are still showing detour too. This also, and I've mentioned this quite a few times before, but I saw them, I had to go to the doctor's last week and I went on 92, and it looks like Caltrans has been clearing 92 along the sides of the road, but they have never cleared anything on Devil Slide. There's still rock debris there. There's still branches. The turnouts have logs in them, so if somebody did need to pull over, they wouldn't be able to. So I did ask you once before, and you passed it on to Mike, and then Mike passed me a link to send in my own ticket to Caltrans, but there's so much that needs to be done. I really feel as though we need some county.
So, Sid, we actually have been talking to Caltrans about Devil's Slide in the 92, and a lot of the work that's being done on the 92 in Kings Mountain right now is a result of that. And I'm sorry that Devil's Slide is lagging, but we'll keep pushing on it.
So Mike, because I know that one more. The other thing is RV that had been towed away, or cars, somebody had been living in it and was abandoned, and they left on the side of Airport Street some buckets of human waste and a lot of trash, and they did get rid of it. But I drove that way tonight, and there's still all kinds of RVs, sailboats, trucks loaded down with cardboard and stuff that looks like it's going to be a dump run that have been there for months. And I do remember a few years back, there was a veteran who was living in one of the RVs that's parked along Airport Street, and they found him deceased in his RV. So in light of the winter that's coming and the storm that might be coming next week, I'm just wondering if, the county could do something to knock on all the doors of those cars and kind of see if they're actually inhabited, and, let people know there's a storm coming and where they can get some shelter if they need it.
Sid, we're tight on time here.
Okay, the last thing I was gonna mention, I don't know if the camera sees this, but got my property tax bill. And they're in this insert, which I could barely afford to pay the bill these days. There's a thing that says where your property taxes go. And it used to be 17% for cities, now it's 15%. The county gets 26%, schools get 51%, special districts 7%. And of the 26% the county gets, I'm assuming they're keeping the other 15% since we're not a city. So I'm
Sid, we're going to cover this later in the agenda.
Oh, good, I did not know that.
Okay, it's on item 4B.
Good.
All right, thank you.
So that's what I was gonna ask you, when you said Measure K money was gonna be set aside, are you setting it aside based on just Midcoast? Or are you talking about the whole coast side from just to go all the way down to Pescadero? Thank you. If you can answer that, would be great.
Well,
That was a question for Ray.
yeah, I think.
The
we'll
Measure
cover-
K is being set aside for infrastructure projects, and the majority of the infrastructure projects that we talked about in that discussion had to do in the Midcoast. So,
Thanks, Ray. All right, Melinda McNaughton, you have your hand up online.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question for Ray just about the stormwater drainage out of Quarry Park. So the way I understand it, if we capture and sink water into our aquifers, it puts pressure into the groundwater aquifers to prevent saltwater intrusion. And I think I'm wondering if there's a way we can capture and sink that water instead of piping it straight out. And it sounds like if we pipe it straight out, it's going to go into the ocean.
yeah, it's a great observation, Melinda, and I don't know the answer to it. I we'll have to talk with the water district to see if there's some way it can get into a system where they're putting it into where it's being put into the aquifer. But that's certainly right now, just in all candidness, we're just trying to figure out a way to keep it out of the homes. So
We'll be covering this issue and the whole idea of regenerative water treatment in our stormwater report. So this will come up again. Thanks.
Thanks.
Len Erickson. You have a question for Ray? This is not a government report from you. I don't hear him. Burnett Silveria. Do you have a question for Ray?
No, I wanted to make a response to the runoff at Quarry Park that Melinda brought up. It is actually runoff. The water doesn't become really a problem with the runoff until it isn't being absorbed by the ground in Quarry Park. Once that ground becomes saturated, then it becomes a problem where it starts running down the streets. Also, the dam is also being used to catch runoff to be able to use it for non-potable use and so on. So they are already trying to gather water and retain it in Quarry Park just by the saturation of the ground into the aquifers, as well as capturing it by the dam. Right now, that runoff water runs above ground into a storm drain system. Now, if it goes underground, it's still going to be going into the same storm drain system. It's not adding to the system. That's where it goes at the present time. In fact, it'd actually be better because it's not going to be picking up contaminants from the road surfaces if it goes into the underground system closer to Quarry Park. But just so that you know, it is runoff from Quarry Park. It does not really become the runoff until it's no longer being able to be absorbed by the soil at Quarry Park. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Len, did you have a question for Ray?
Greg, can I add something to the?
I'd really rather not. I got to get Jim Pruitt on. He's been waiting for half an hour.
It's a conversation. I just want to add something very fast. Just take a second.
Well, I don't hear
Please.
Len speaking, so go ahead.
So there's been talk
And it's
about
Harvey,
Quarry
yes.
Park. Can I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
There's been talk about the Quarry Park runoff. There has been one idea that has creating a holding, some type of a holding pond within Quarry Park, which would lend to Melinda's idea of helping. It would be a temporary and drain out slow. So
Okay, let's put that into the stormwater report.
just yeah.
Okay, I don't want to spend this meeting time with Ray to design
we're
a
here-
solution to a complex problem. But, we are aware of that suggestion and Melinda's concern, and we will be dealing with it. All right. So I would like, and we still have Harvey and others to come and Mike O'Neill, right?
okay.
But I would like to recognize Jim Pruitt and have him give the harbor update. If that's okay, Ray, are you done?
Yeah,
for now?
thank you all for your passionate commitment to the community. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for coming, Ray. Get better. Okay, Jim, thanks for waiting. You agreed to give us an update on Harbor's activities?
Yeah, it'd be great to do that. The harbor is doing fantastic with current upgrades and planned upgrades. In the past year, the ADA restroom that we were required to put in on the restaurant row has been completed and accepted by the district. It's behind the old Catch Joanne restaurant. And when the new restaurants open, that will be available to the public and fully ADA. With respect to the restaurants, Pelagic Hospitality Group has signed a lease for that area in the building, all three of those areas. And we're hopeful that they'll be opening in the next few weeks. And that they'll be open for the lighted boat parade or lighted boat festival, no parade, that the Harbor District is sponsoring this year and bringing it back on December 9th. So we hope everybody can come down and enjoy the lighted boats and the atmosphere of the harbor. With respect to the coastal trail within the harbor, we were able to extend the coastal trail from the end of the sidewalk above Perch Beach all the way to the parking lot and inside the harbor. So the trail no longer goes down into that dirt area or uneven area. It's now fully paved and ADA compliant. And it also goes to the two businesses that are located on Perch Beach. With respect to the new business on Perch Beach, Ocean Cider, they have opened and they're doing fantastic. I think they're open there during their winter hours right now, but still fantastic atmosphere and product. Encourage everybody to go down and enjoy. The launch ramp, restroom, and boat wash project, that is to replace the restroom out at the boat launch. It's very old. There's leaking fixtures, and it's not necessarily compliant with all regulations. And then the boat wash, right now, everybody washes their boats at the boat wash, and all that water goes back into the harbor and unfiltered. It's our hope that we can build a new restroom facility that has more than just the restrooms, that also have outdoor showers and other amenities for people. And then the boat wash will be recycled water, so they'll be able to recycle the water and filter it before it goes back out to the harbor. But our plan right now is to build that system. Does it exist right now? Not necessarily. We have to go out and find it or design it. But we're looking forward to that. That's not going to happen this year. We're hopeful that we can have the design and engineering done by the end of next year, and then the following year do all that work. Surfers Beach ADA restroom and green space project. Everybody's been watching that. I say built, and the dirt being moved around, and the coastal trail has been smoothed out there and widened to create a little bit more safety. That is coming along on schedule, and we hope to have that open and available to the public next year. And again, that will come with restrooms, sinks, outdoor showers, a place to lock up your bikes, parking spaces for surf schools or school groups to park a bus and drop off kids safely. So we're looking forward to that and watching that get complete in timely manner. And again, that project's fully funded also. Surfers Beach replenishment project that is moving along at glacier speeds. The Surfers Beach replenishment project includes placing 100 cubic yards of sand on Surfers Beach, dredging the harbor, and then the eelgrass mitigation. The project will begin with eelgrass, then the dredging, and during the dredging, it will be pumped over or trucked over to Surfers Beach. The plan is, or the hope is, depending on how this project works, is that that sand will protect Highway 1 from the ocean by moving the beach out further. It's also expected to improve surfing conditions and the surfing breakout there. So we're looking forward to that project. Right now, that project is scheduled to begin in the spring of 2024, but we still haven't got our permits back from NOAA and a few other agencies that we require permits on, and we can't put the project out for bid until we get those permits back. And right now, we're waiting for the permits to come back. Everything has been submitted to the agencies. Johnson Pier reconfiguration project. That project's going to extend and widen the end of the pier. It's going to create a new fuel pier and a safer fuel pier, a new maintenance pier for vessels to tie up to and bring in and do repairs. Also pump off their oily waste and or their sewage to prevent it going into the water. And that's free of charge. Replace and expand the floating docks, increasing our revenues with additional slips, and then electrical upgrades that will negate the need for the fish buyers at the end of the pier to bring in diesel generators to power squid pumps. So we're looking forward to that. This project is in the design, engineering, and permitting phase. It's coming up before the Coastal Commission in the next couple of weeks. The project is estimated to cost $37 million, of which we've spent close to $2 million on the design, engineering, and permitting. So we'll be seeking additional funding from other sources. Beyond that, that's the only things going down on the harbor. Any questions?
Yeah, questions from the council? You have a lot going on. Kimberly.
Hi, Jim. I have a couple of questions. The first one is you mentioned the coastal trail extension, which, as I recall, when you mentioned this before it was done, was going to not be paved. And I don't recall when that was changed to paving. It just was paved without any change to the paperwork or the permitting. So can you speak to that?
The permitting and everything was completed for the paving. To make it ADA compliant, we had to have a solid surface, and we couldn't use a dirt surface at that location. The other location where we're going to work on is between the harbor master's office and docks A, B, and C, where a dirt path has been turned into a trail. That we do not plan on requiring that to be ADA, because there's other options to get from A to B in that location that are ADA, and that is going to be crushed granite at the moment.
And was that approved by the Coastal Commission? That was never part of the CDP.
That was approved by the coastal. My staff is telling me that. I haven't specifically looked at it myself, but I have no doubt, no reason to doubt that it wasn't.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions, Kimberly?
Not for now.
Dan, you had a question?
Yeah, hi, Jim. Thanks for your report. I understand that the restaurant has applied for putting fire pits out in front of the restaurant on the sidewalk. I was just curious if you could report back anything. I have no idea how big they are. The concern is, that's an area for people to, a sidewalk, people to walk on, and I don't know how. Can you report it on anything? Is that?
I can get back to you. I don't know. I have not seen that submittal.
Okay.
So he'll have
maybe
to
they
take a note,
pulled it
Scott,
back.
to follow up with the Harbor District on that.
And also the new bathrooms that are in the back of the retail strip there. Yeah, I saw pictures, and the doors, the area, it just in no way matches the character of the whole area. These big steel doors, bright blue. Is there any way it could be changed? These doors could be changed to wood, kind of just give it just to blend in. It looks almost like a prison bathroom. I'm not talking about the inside. I'm talking about the just outside.
The exterior door.
The doors into the men's and women's bathroom.
I'll take a look at that.
And the ceiling, I don't know, just
So you want coastal character is what you're asking for.
I think that would be nice. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And as far as the sand replenishment project, Jim, has there been any discussion about any kind of a planting of any vegetation similar to what they did in Pacifica, which, by the way, seems to be extremely successful? It's been able to retain these sand dunes are growing higher and higher. But anyway, it's I don't know what the vegetation is, but seems to be thriving and actually doing the job of retaining the sand. Has there been any discussion about that you're aware of?
I will get you the vegetation plan and forward it to you so you're aware of all the facts on that one.
Okay.
All right.
We did use vegetation over at the West Trail, and it's doing its job and then retaining the sand there. So we're very happy with that.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's good. Was there any other council member had a question? Ann?
This is a little off, but it was just is there any update on the commercial crab season start?
That's not gonna, or even though.
We have to wait for the flyovers and the whale count. The recreational season, as you know, opened up this weekend, and we had every single parking space in the harbor was full. And then both sides of Highway 1, all the way down to Sam's, was full of boats and trailers. So very, very active weekend for Dungeness crab for recreational. We expect the same this weekend with the 3-day weekend, all 3 days to be extremely busy before the storm comes in. So, but the commercial, we have to wait for the flyovers.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't see any questions from the public, and I am in a trouble with agenda timing. So I'm going to thank Jim very much for coming and sharing what is a very busy set of work you're doing. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
All right. Now we have other government officials here. In the interest of time, we have a hard start for Kellex around 8 o'clock, and she has to leave. So I'm trying to move things along. I could consider rescheduling stuff after the Kellex session if we have to. Mike, you gave us an update in writing, Mike O'Neill. I posted it to the website. Is there any reason for you to speak in any detail?
The only thing I could ask is Dan sent me an email about a tree branch that had broken, and Public Works took care of it within 2 days. But if you could put that website to report road issues on your website, that would be great.
Okay,
So
so
people can use it.
Scott,
Thanks.
Ann Stillman replied with an explanation of how those issues should be reported. So I would like you to note that we should put that on the website, and we'll include it in the minutes by reference.
Yeah.
Okay,
As part of the
that
record.
Public Works email, I mean.
I will get you
website.
the Public Works email and a snippet of text to include in the minutes, and then we'll also try and make that visible as part of the process. I think there's a broader issue here, Mike. We have the same thing with Caltrans. I mean, we don't need to bring up to Ray Mueller every single thing that goes wrong. Well, that's what I'm saying. We should have an understood process for filing normal work tickets. Okay. Government officials. Now, wait a minute. Lisa, you have your hand raised. Is this for a question for somebody, or is this for a government official report?
I have a brief report.
Go ahead.
Okay, the Planning Commission today, County Planning Commission today unanimously approved the CDP to make permanent the off-leash dog program at Quarry Park. And the Parks Department agreed to provide signage clarifying that dogs must be on leash in the grassy picnic area that's immediately adjacent to the playground as requested by MCC. And another, at the end of the meeting, Director Monowitz announced that the final EIR for Cypress Point won't come before the Planning Commission until January at the earliest. This is due to the extra time required to address the large volume of comments received on the draft EIR. That's it.
Lisa, thank you. And I know some people will find that good news about Quarry Park. Len, did you want to give an update on your work on transportation? Is that why your hand's up?
It is, Greg.
Thanks. Go ahead.
So I'm going to give a report on 4 different projects, basically as they impact on Highway 1. There are 3 Caltrans projects involved here. One is the repair of the coastal trail in the armoring from the winter storms. And they put out a press announcement saying they have funding from that. And in terms of inquiry, in terms of when that project will be performed, they have permitting to do. And so they're forecasting that in the first half of 24. The second project is the multi-asset improvement for Highway 1. That environmental document was passed before the council about a year ago. That's now gone into planning to pursue a coastal development permit for the project. In terms of Highway 1 in the vicinity of Surfers Beach and local areas there, the 2 most important parts of that, one is to put in a Class 2 bicycle trail on Highway 1. A Class 2 bicycle trail would interfere with the parking that exists there by practice. So that's one item. And second, they will basically have to address the impact of the parking that's done informally at along Surfers Beach on the east side of the highway. And that goes to the project that is being worked on by GCSD, which is their park and community center. And again, for that one, they're working to bring that forward for permitting in early 24. And the most important part relative to Highway 1 is the treatment of parking as it adjoins the highway. Okay. So those are the 4 projects there that are, oh, and then finally they have gotten project initiation for the work to basically design the where do we go from here on the armoring at Surfers Beach and the Coastal Trail long range. They have a temporary permit for that work. And it's basically has to be updated by 2025. So they have an initiation document in place for that. So those are the 4 activities, all of which bear on the item. And I'll talk about other proposals there later.
All right, Len, thank you for that update.
Question?
Dan, you have a question for Len?
Yeah, regarding the part, you mentioned parking along Highway 1 in the Caltrans right away. Is there some kind of a plan to use that space after the Granada Park is completed? Is there some kind of
what I proposed and asked people about in parallel to that is to use that for the multimodal trail that would go from Coronado to Capistrano. That's where the parallel trail first segment is.
So there's no plan currently?
That's correct.
Correct?
That's
So
correct.
just, okay.
We'll get a chance to review this stuff later. Okay, moving right along, I want to offer Harvey a chance to give an update if you have one, Harvey, for us.
Briefly, yeah. Last night at the city council meeting, we approved the development of what we're calling the Opportunity Center of the Coast Side. That's going to be on Main Street in Half Moon Bay, but it's going to serve the entire coast side. We approved a job-seeking agency to help with getting jobs, especially for low-income workers. That we're going to have that open very soon. And we also approved the request to have an incubator, an agency that will work with getting an incubator for startups on the coast side. So that's very exciting, and that's going to happen very soon. We also directed our staff to write a rent control ordinance. We hope to have that available within a month or so. That was 4 of the 5 council members were very enthusiastic about getting that to help, again, our low-income renters. And the good news is that every Friday, starting after Thanksgiving, we're going to have something else going on the Night of Lights. We're going to have a tree lighting after Thanksgiving. We're going to have an ugly sweater contest. There's going to be a parade for Night of Lights. So it's going to be every Friday starting after Thanksgiving, some other event occurring in downtown Half Moon Bay. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Sid Young, take the microphone, please.
You didn't cover the no turn on red signs at 92 in Maine. 92 and South Main Street and North Main Street. The other question I have is, on the Opportunity Center, I don't think you gave us the address. And the next question was for safe parking programs. You guys were looking into a thing in Half Moon Bay for safe parking. I know they didn't come to any solution on that yet, but I thought you could give us an update. And then last but not least, on the Coast Coast, they've been having a lot of excessive fire alarms going off even late at night, 2 in the morning. And somebody posted on next door that they are deficient, the smoke detector systems, and they are deficient. That even if you're cooking in your room, it sets it off, or the steam from your shower and that sort of thing. So I just wondered if you were talking with the county to look into that. Thank you.
You asked a lot. I honestly didn't follow all of it.
The turn signals, red, right turn on red.
I think,
highway.
yeah, that is going to be better positioned. It's not, it's in a lousy place right now, but it's going to make it clear that where it's applicable. What else did you ask, Sid?
Enforcement.
Enforcement of
And the smoke detector Coast has.
Enforcement. Coast.
Yeah, go ahead, Sid.
Okay, I asked about the deficient smoke detectors or the fire alarm system at the coast side. They're getting a lot of false alarms. The fire department has to come out full response, and then everybody in their rooms have to walk out into the parking lot until they get it shut back and turn it off or whatever. So
Which building are you talking about?
it's 230 Cabrillo Highway South. It's the
What building?
Coast House. It's right between El Verano, Tres Amigos and the little burger stand. It's the homeless hotel.
Okay.
Okay, I hate to say it like that, but that's what it is. So that was one of my questions. The other was
Let him answer.
safe parking program. And where's the address of the Opportunity Center?
The Opportunity Center, I think, is 647 Main Street. I don't know about the smoke detectors at the Coast House, but I will check into it. And you had one more question.
Safe parking.
Oh, yeah, that's apparently been put on hold for a while because of other priorities that the county has. So that right now is not going to be implemented in the near future.
Okay, Dan, you had a question?
Yeah, Harvey, I guess it was, I don't know, three months ago, maybe, there was a presentation at the Half Moon Bay Library regarding some altering of Main Street downtown, maybe widening sidewalks, maybe changing from diagonal parking to parallel parking, narrowing the street. Do you have any updates at all on that?
Yeah, I do. That's called a streetscape plan. We've had a consultant come and ask the community for their input. We've had 3 meetings with the public. They have tentative designs for what they call Heritage Main Street, that's near City Hall, for North Main Street, which is going to have a different set of requirements to make it more pedestrian friendly. Kitty Fernandez Park is part of this Main Street streetscape project. And lastly, wayfinding or street signs or arches over Main Street. That is also been designed tentatively, and we're going to be approving those plans probably in December. So it's not too late to comment on some of these designs, but there's been tentative projects that have been approved.
All right, thank you. I don't see any other members of the public or the board, thank goodness. And so I'm ready to move on to.
Let me just ask real quick, Harvey, is that going to be on the website? All this information you talk, all these changes to Main Street, is it easily accessible?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Where? How do we
Go to the planning part of the website?
Can you?
It's under, I believe it's called the streetscape plan. And it's available on our on the website.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Public comment and announcements. Is I'm reading this right? Sid Young.
This is just a follow-up on the 25th of October, they discovered that there was cross connections at Montero View, Fairlawn View School in Montero at the elementary school, and there was some communication back and forth between the school district and MWSD. And then I guess nothing really happened right away, so they did do a water shutdown on November 4th, but it was reconnected by Friday, so it's all resolved now, and that's what I wanted to let you know.
I'll speak to this on on council member activity later in the broadcast.
Because I don't know what that,
The water shut off at Fairlawn View School is the topic,
Okay.
which has been restored. Thank you for that, Sid. All right, I see no other public comment and announcements, so I'm going to move on to the consent agenda. I want to thank Kimberly and Scott and others who've been working on the minutes with me to try and catch up. At the time I prepared this agenda, I listed 6 different sets of minutes we had. We do not have all 6. We do not have minutes for August 23rd, when Scott was on vacation, or September 20th, which was the special meeting where we discussed the Quarry Park dog leash thing. We do have minutes for September 13th, September 27th, October 11th, and October 25th. So I make a motion that we approve those minutes. Do we have an objection? Kimberly?
I would ask to pull October 25th because there were some things I saw that were incorrect. Some minor, but I'd just like to make those corrections before we.
Okay, Kimberly wants to pull October 25th. So do I have a motion to accept the minutes of September 13th, September 27th, and October 11th? Do we have a second for that? Okay, so can we take a vote on the consent agenda there?
Okay, hold on a second.
That's September 13th, 27th, and October 11th.
Okay, Greg?
Yes.
Greg, Gus?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Claire?
Yes.
Kimberly?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Dan?
Yes.
Okay. So we approved 13, 27, 11.
Should we note that we approved 13 before, but we're reapproving?
I wasn't going to bring it up. You want, I can explain to the public that we had errors in our own notes, but we previously approved September 13th, but there was an error in other minutes. We're just fixing it. It's fixed.
Got it.
Okay, got it.
Okay, now, I do not see Kellex Nelson.
Timothy Federal was here. I don't see him anymore either.
Timothy Federal is here. Timothy Federal, would you like to be made co-host?
I do not have Kellex's deck, but let me message her.
All right, let me take a minute while we're waiting, and I'll just comment on the Montero school situation, which Sid brought up. I have attended meetings at MWSD, and I've spoken at length with the general manager and with Sean McFederidge of Cabrillo Union School District. My overall comment is that we need a postmortem on what happened. Okay, why was it necessary to shut off the water at the school? And I think I know the answers. Public statements were made at the MWSD meeting, for instance. There were no permits on file for the fixtures that were in place in the school from construction done in 1959. And of course, MWSD didn't even exist till 2003. Okay, so when it was discovered that there was inappropriate plumbing that could potentially contaminate our aquifer and our water supply, they felt compelled to shut it off. And there's more details than that. The planning is under the responsibility of the Division of State Architects. I don't know why they didn't have a checklist that includes check your water and sewer connections for old plumbing when you upgrade a school. The planning department never gave us a referral on it because again, it wasn't the province of the San Mateo County Planning Department. But then again, how many schools maybe has the county seen upgraded? But you know, why didn't the contractor know to do this? Who's running it? So there was a little bit of finger pointing between the school district and Montera, but I think the real problem was a failure of planning and procedure. This should have been a routine thing. We've been doing school remodels and upgrades for decades. So I won't drag council into this right now, but I do plan to put in some time and try and come up with a postmortem and see what we can say proscriptively that will avoid it. I also put the school district and the water department in Half Moon Bay in touch with Granada Community Services District, which offers the sewer and water for the El Granada remodel, which is also coming up. And they're going to be on a meeting, I think next Tuesday, I'm going to be in on that. It's just to make sure that given that we have this special permitting process that bypasses the normal county planning, we don't make sure they don't have the same problem because it's an older building down there. So, you know, I've done that kind of groundwork there. All right.
Question.
Claire has a question.
Tangentially, there's supposed to be a groundbreaking on Monday morning at Fairlawn View at 9:15. Is that still on as far as you know?
As far as I know, it's still on and I plan to be there.
I plan to be there.
Okay, so rushing things along as we have, we are now 4 minutes ahead of 8 o'clock. And I don't see Timothy Federal here. Kimberly?
What we could take a couple of minutes and talk about the Montera Mountain Access Road Tour.
Okay, why don't we? Because it's an open agenda item. We have a couple things hanging for future. We haven't yet resolved, for instance, the pesticide herbicide issue, and we haven't yet resolved the concerns and damage that was done to Montera Mountain. So Kimberly, you want to talk about that?
So California State Parks has given us the opportunity to tour the road with them. I see Kellex just popped up. So do you want to continue? Or
Kellex, I'm gonna make you co-host and we're going to stop talking. And I know you have a deadline to meet. So take it away. We'll have your update.
Oh, okay. Well, now let me open it now.
Take your time. Didn't mean to rush you.
That's
We
okay.
we did everything we could to give
Thank
you an 8
you.
o'clock start.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm gonna open this up. Give me one moment. Number there. Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah, so I think we're good. Let me switch over to Zoom. Okay. Hi, everybody. So you can hear me all right, right? Yes? I can't hear you. Can you all hear me? I cannot hear anyone. If you hear me, can you give me like a thumbs up or something? Yeah?
I can hear you.
Oh, I can hear Lynn. Thanks, Lynn. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Thank you for that. So, yeah, thanks. It's good to see you guys today. I appreciate being here. I wanted to just come back. It's been a while since I've made a presentation to the Midcoast Community Council just about the RCD and what we're up to. And there are enough new people on the council that I'm not even sure that everybody knows what the RCD is. So figured I would just take a step back and talk about that. Specifically, we just completed an impact report, a 15-year report of some of what we've accomplished over the last 15 years. And I thought I would give some of those highlights tonight. So a little bit about what the RCD is for folks who aren't familiar. It stands for Resource Conservation District, but you probably hear a lot of people just calling us RCD. And fundamentally, our mission is that we help people help the land. And we also help people by helping the land in San Mateo County. We are a very niche-y entity. We're a special district that was formed in the 1930s. That's our old office up there on the top right. We're formed in the 30s in response to the Dust Bowl crisis to be a partner to the U.S.
Department of Agriculture, the Soil Conservation Service. So we were a district. So we were formed as we were created as a partner to a federal agency, but were established in California state law and then formed in San Mateo County through the Board of Supervisors, a vote of the supervisors. But we exist as an independent district. So we work across public and private lands, across jurisdictions, across boundaries, always in partnership. And most of our work is providing non-regulatory, confidential technical assistance to individual land managers or landowners. And so since we do everything in partnership, literally everything I talk about tonight is going to be an accomplishment or something we're thinking through or working on that's not just the RCD, but involves one or many others. And another thing that makes the RCD maybe a bit niche-y is that we're an environmental organization that is centered on people. And so we work in support of people who manage land, people who grow our food, people who teach, people who are raising families, people who are running businesses, communities like you all. And so we're also, I think this is relevant to you since you're an advisory body to the county, these are some of the county priorities and plans that we're supporting. The shared vision is something that we support, but the others that are asterisked here are county plans that we are literally written into being a part of: climate action, hazard mitigation, grading, etc. And we partner a lot with the county, but also many others, NGOs, private businesses, etc. And so these are our program areas with which you may be familiar. Some of you are, some of you less. These aren't really separate. They overlap a lot, but these are where our areas of focus exist. So a lot of our work is about wildlife, restoring habitat for plants and animals at risk of extinction and other wildlife. A lot of our work that you've heard about here has to do with water. There's, developing water storage, water conservation, water quality monitoring, water quality remediation, water pollution remediation, that kind of thing. Also working to both mitigate climate change and adapt to climate change. So reducing emissions, removing greenhouse gases from the atmosphere, but also helping people and natural communities prepare for that. In agriculture, we serve as the county's agricultural ombudsman and provide a lot of assistance to agricultural operations and agricultural landowners. And we also serve farmers and ranchers. We were formed as a petition by farmers in the 30s, actually. And then some of the work also that you're familiar with comes under our Forest Health and Fire Resiliency Program. So you're probably more familiar with the work that we've done in the Midcoast. A lot of that has focused on wildfire resiliency, risk reduction. Much of our work on the South Coast is more about forest health and biodiversity. So you're familiar with like the Chipper program and things that reduce the risk of catastrophic fire, and the work that we've been doing in partnership with the county in Quarry Park. So just a couple highlights without going into great details about these. The water program, I mentioned this 15-year impact report, which has more of these highlights, but fundamentally we are ensuring reliable water for farms, fish, and people, particularly in the South Coast where there's no water utility, no irrigation district, no state water project, and obviously no snowpack. So we help people to conserve, strategically manage, and store water. The photo on the left is a project that we've been doing with the community in Lomamar, their water company, to get water security. And the project on the right is one that we did on a farm. And then that photo in the center is some of the water quality monitoring that we do. We monitor water quality at about 40 locations, trying to identify sources of pollution and then working to remediate them. And some of you have seen some of the webinars we've done on that, and we've presented on some of that in this venue. And if anyone's interested, at next week's meeting of the board of directors of the RCD, which is from 4 to 6 p.m., Noah Katz, our water quality program manager, is going to be making a presentation about, what's up with the water quality program, what we're working on and thinking about and finding and learning. I mentioned wildlife. Some of you might not be aware that there's more than 40 species of plants and animals at risk of extinction in San Mateo County. That sounds alarming that there's so many at risk of extinction. That's also actually a good sign in some respects, because it means that they're still existing here, when in other places nearby, they've gone locally extinct. So we have done a lot of habitat restoration, and just during the period that this report covers, we restored 1,500 acres of habitat. And to give you a sense, that's about 1.5 times the size of Golden Gate Park. And we've done things like removing dams, opening up 118 miles of creeks to flow freely and give endangered coho salmon and threatened steelhead trout access to some of the best spawning habitat and the Central Coast. And most people probably didn't even realize that there were 118 miles of creeks in San Mateo County, let alone the fact that we just opened up that much in addition to the runs that they had access to. Now they can complete their ancestral migration. And then with agriculture, as I mentioned, we were formed by petition of local farmers in the 30s. We see local farms as essential. They're part of the local economy, the character of the coast, the local food system, food security. We also see farmers as environmental stewards, not as a problem to be mitigated, which I think is often an environmental perspective on agriculture. But we work at the intersection of conservation and agriculture for environmental sustainability and also for agricultural viability, economic viability. So one key highlight that we've shared here is helping farms use nature-based solutions to remove greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide equivalents from the atmosphere. This metric that's shown on this slide, removing over 6,000 tons of greenhouse gases from the atmosphere, is to give you a sense, that is equivalent to nearly 16 million miles of vehicle emissions removed from the road. And this is from practices like building soil health, reducing tillage, planting hedgerows, more regenerative practices, et cetera, and helping farms adopt those practices or transition to more regenerative work. We also, as I mentioned before, serve as the county's agricultural ombudsman. That's a partnership with the county that is assisting farmers and ranchers and agricultural landowners with very diverse needs, from how to permit a farm stand to how to find resources to get something done. Oh, and I also should mention, that's where some of you are also familiar with the grant that we received, and the work we've been doing in partnership with a number of others to look at like a local food hub or processing or distribution center to aggregate some of the efforts of some of the small farms on the coast. And then the thing that people maybe sometimes think less about is the relationship of natural resource management to hazards and hazard mitigation. Often the way we humans manage natural resources creates or contributes to or worsens hazards, and often the way that we manage natural resources can mitigate those hazards or reverse them. The two photos on the top show the regular flooding in the community. Well, that's not regular. That's extreme flooding in the community of Pescadero from the storms last winter. And then the photo on the bottom shows when the August 2020 CZU lightning complex fire was moving through Pescadero, San Mateo County's Memorial Park at Old Hall Road. We were on site doing a project at that point when it was coming through. So some of the solutions that we've worked on to some of these things, like for example, are this dredge project we did about 1.5 miles through Pescadero Marsh to reduce the frequency and the extent of the flooding, while also then opening up this watershed to migration and spawning for these endangered salmon. But the things that people are maybe less familiar with are these nature-based solutions that we work on, that if you're driving up and down the coast, a lot of places in the Midcoast, you wouldn't even know that there was work done there. It looks like nature, it looks natural. When many of these are engineered to restore what used to be the natural solutions to flooding, et cetera. And so this, for example, is an area that has a floodplain. So this is giving creeks places where they can spill out over the banks and drop out their sediment and let water out. So if you find places throughout a watershed or throughout a system that can where that can happen and where it's not harmful, then it can take pressure off of other places where maybe it would be more harmful. And I think many of you participate in the Chipper program, and certainly you're familiar with the work going on in Quarry Park, and this vegetation management that is focused on creating defensible spaces, again, in partnership with many other organizations and individuals. And so this type of vegetation management is focused on reducing the risk of catastrophic fire, whereas some of our other work is focused on restoring the health of forests. And then despite our best efforts, there are times that sadly catastrophic fires do occur. These are some photos of the aftermath of the August 2020 lightning complex fires, where we provided very extensive assistance to people and are still doing that work 3 years later, helping people with the impacts to their roads, to their water infrastructure, to creating hazard trees, concerns about debris flow and erosion, and more. And then, of course, there are these extreme storm events that are happening with increasing frequency and severity nowadays. These photos are from last winter's storm in situations where we were contacted to provide help. The top left photo shows a debris flow that had been exacerbated by the fires that then filled a creek and took out the road and bridge to the homes on the other side. The top right is a dam face that was failing above some structures. The bottom right is an example of a tree that fell, not only because the storms were so severe, but also the tree had already been impacted by the fires and had been weakened. So those were sort of interacting. And the bottom left is an example of what happened and can happen with creek bank erosion if once creeks become cut down or incised. So mudslides, culverts, flooding roads, access and egress, stream banks, gullies, loss of property, downstream flooding, exposed septic systems. These are all some of the things that we've been asked to help with. This is in fiscal year 2022. This was our final count, was that for every dollar of property taxes that we received, we leveraged that with $50 in grants and other financial resources for our constituents. So the RCD is a pretty significant bang for the buck for taxpayers. We are, if not the least, we're certainly down near the bottom of the amount of property taxes that we receive compared to other special districts throughout the county. And then over the 15 years that this impact report covers, the property taxes, you can see, is the little red sliver that's at the top of each of these bars. And then in recent years, we've had an annual appeal to get donations and had received some operating support from the county. And then all the rest is essentially leveraged by that. And over this period of time, we brought in over $50 million in state and federal funds to direct services to our constituents. So that is a very quick overview of some of the things that we've been working on. If anybody wants to take a screenshot or a photo or what have you of this to see where our website is, our YouTube page has a number of webinars that you might be interested in, like about water quality in the Midcoast, or that sort of thing. Or we have some social media presence as well, and you can sometimes see, we'll post project updates, or we'll post maybe like a video from a project or a time-lapse photography of how something's working out, or that sort of thing. And then I'm going to stop this share and switch over real fast to show you where you can get, hold on a second, what you can find online for some more information, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. So, one moment. So let me see. I'm going to share my screen again. So if you go to our website, sanmataeorcd.org, you'll be able to get to this this page that has the full impact report if you want to see it in more detail. the report is available in Spanish and in English, and as a PDF flip book or scrolling through the page. And it gives more highlights, more metrics. For example, some of the water quality work, more about the forest health work, some examples, that sort of thing. And that's it. I'm going to stop my share. I tried to be somewhat brief, so I don't bore you to tears. And I would be happy to hear any questions if you have any. I wasn't able to hear the room a moment ago, but I hope I can now. I can't hear anything. I'm gonna, let's see, should I leave the meeting and come back in maybe? I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna leave the meeting and come back. Oh, wait, I hear something.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, it's you, Lynn.
Good.
I can't hear anyone but you, Lynn. I'm gonna leave the meeting and come right back in case there's any questions. I'll be right back.
But he's talking.
What's that?
I don't see anybody else trying to talk except you.
I can't hear any. This is Michelle, and I can't hear the board.
Okay, so
There's
it's
nobody
not-
talking.
It's not just me then. Okay.
Nope.
It's the microphone in the office.
Yeah, I can hear your whole presentation. It's just we can't hear them. Greg was waving.
I'm assuming that Greg knows that they're not being heard.
Yeah.
I don't think they can hear me or you.
I'm gonna put something in the chat that says that we're talking.
Let's see.
Oh, he says we are aware that you can't hear us.
Okay.
That sounded very foreboding. We will have questions.
Well, go for it because they can hear you.
All of a sudden, I feel like that's like I'm going to the principal's office. We will have questions.
Now, Alexia, you just take over as chair until Greg gets back together.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me try this.
Oh, that
You
works.
can hear me
Claire.
now.
Yeah,
There you go. You're back.
that's good, Claire.
Can you hear Greg?
Don't hear anybody now.
Well, we're still here, Fran. We're just not saying anything. I mean,
Great presentation, Kellex.
thank you. It's always hard to choose, what to leave out because you want to talk about everything. But
Can you hear me now?
yes,
So we can hear, but can anybody else try their mic?
This is Dan. Dan, hear me?
I think, Greg, if you can hear me, maybe what would work is if everybody just joins the meeting through their laptops and everybody stays on mute so there's no echo.
No.
Let me just ask you that.
No, we can't hear Claire.
My Zoom, my. Well, we. No, we echoed.
Because MCC Zoom is not muted. Let me see if that, now try.
Recording in progress. I can hear you, Claire. It's Michelle. And you're not echoing.
Heard you. Did you have your mic on? I was doing it. Okay, how about let's try, just try to.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you too, Mike.
Yeah, they can hear my, this is the county laptop. They can hear me.
Yeah, we know that we can communicate through the laptop, but there's.
I think
no problem.
the echo is if you turn the volume off the TV.
Mike, we've had this problem before.
Okay, I just.
If we turn the volume off, then nobody can hear.
No, if we turn that screen off, we can't hear the audience. Sam Kelly's talking to us.
But if, yeah, but they're all on the Zoom meeting.
Rebecca's in.
Certain protocols to. Let's see what the chat's audio system.
Everybody can hear me, right?
I can't hear you. If you're not coming out of there.
I got the volume on.
Who turned it off?
To stop the echo.
Well, would you turn it back on so we can?
Wait, there's
diagnose this?
no echo now, and I can hear Gus and I can hear somebody else in the room.
Okay, can you hear? Can you hear Greg?
Yes, and now there's an echo. Oh, I see. You put something in the chat.
10 minutes.
Do you want me to answer? Do you want me to answer your questions that you put in the chat?
Yeah, I would appreciate it if you could speak to what RCD is doing or any involvement you have in follow through on issues that have been raised at the council. We had a series of residents raise concerns about pesticides and herbicides. We have the wildfire study we did over a year ago. And then we have the stormwater work that we hear you're involved in. If you could just speak to what you are planning or hoping to do on those topics in the coming months, that would be great, because we can listen to you.
Sure, yeah.
Just raise your microphone a little, or else Dan raise hers.
We stopped talking. She starts already.
All right, I'll mute myself.
Okay, let's see. Let's see, regarding pesticides, we were going to hold the Roundup on Roundup, have a forum on glyphosate and that sort of thing. Our intention, the RCD doesn't do advocacy work. We provide technical assistance and try to give people information. And we were going to offer a forum to give people information on who's using it, what, when, where, how, why. We thought that would be of value for people to get that information. But I think that one of the things that we learned from a lot of the folks that were there is that, I was like basically told I'm a shill for Monsanto because I was offering to provide that information. And so I think really we took stock on staff and said, hey, are we adding value? And it didn't sound like that was what people wanted. What people wanted was for or against arguments, and that's really not what we do. So we're really revisiting where and we can add value and what would make sense in the conversation. And right now we're not holding the Roundup on Roundup. So we don't really, we're not going to resolve that issue for people, whether or not to use it or how to use it or anything like that. But we can talk or whether or not to use it, all the science about it. But we do have the ability to provide a forum for people to have access. People who are using it and how they're using it, that sort of thing. Regarding wildfire, should I answer these questions or? Yeah, sure, Melinda.
Hi, Kellex. Thank you. And great presentation tonight. I really am impressed by all the great work you're doing.
Thank you.
When we held that presentation last week, we definitely did not intend to make you look bad or say that you are a shill for Monsanto. That did not come from us. But we were bringing up a concern the community had because we found out that some toxic chemicals are being used in the parks like Garlon and glyphosate. So we want some accountability and transparency. And so that's what we're asking for, is just basically records. And if you guys are, using small amounts of it, then we'll be able to see that and you'll get credit for it and it'll look great. So that's what we're asking for as a community.
Yeah, some of the things in the chat said something different. It says that the RCD is pushing their use of pesticides, paired with we need our public officials to represent us. There were a lot of personal attacks that went in the chat, and that's really just not the way that that we want to engage. And so we're not going to about that. We are waiting to see where we can, add value, and what the thing that we had offered to add value about, we were told repeatedly by individuals. I've seen a number of emails that were sent around, and I saw the chat. And because the RCD was offering to hold a forum to provide information on how glyphosate was being used, I've now seen a number of written communications indicating that we were pushing and defending and justifying the efficacy of glyphosate. So clearly the forum that we were offering to hold was not one that was going to be meeting those needs. So, we want to be helpful, and that wasn't going to be helpful. Where it sounded like at this point, the conversation that people wanted to have was more about like the pros and cons of
of glyphosate, and we're not the experts on that, so that's not really the best place for us to fill a gap.
So I understand. We will not be hearing from RCD on this issue, and we will turn to county parks and ask them to explain what they're doing. And when we get that answer, or if we don't get that answer, then the MCC will write a letter appropriate to whatever the sentiment is at the time. So that's the pesticide issue. I know you've done some work on stormwater with local residents. I'm curious how you got involved. I know you guys are good at getting money. If you could just talk about what you're doing, I would like to include your thoughts and so forth when we put our stormwater report together. So can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, with the so basically the RCD works where we're invited. So we're different from an entity that's got a mandate. So like Coastal Commission or the Department of Fish and Game or what have you may have a mandate about what they're required to protect a particular outcome. RCDs were created in statute to be very nimble and to evolve with the changing needs of the community. And so basically what that means is we work where we're invited. And so and then we're constrained by what we have funding to do because we are grant dependent. And yeah, we have been really good at getting funding to do projects when there's one that's been identified. So with some of the stormwater work that we've been doing, like flooding related, for example, the one that I highlighted in Pescadero, a lot of that is really closely integrated with stream restoration and habitat, and has a lot of conservation values and benefits. We were invited a number of years ago by the residents on 2nd Street in Montera to try to help with some of their flooding issues, and that's a place where we've been less successful in getting grant funds. I've now applied for 2 grants to try to address their concerns, and I've been unsuccessful both times. But we'll continue to try to do that. I don't know if that answers your question or not. Is there anything else I could speak to about that?
So just to summarize, you're trying to pursue grants on behalf of the people at 1st Street and again at Quarry Park. Would that be a summary?
Well, in Quarry Park, we've pursued funding for fuel load reduction, not for any stormwater management. But yes, for the residents in Montera that experience the regular flooding, we've provided them with some technical assistance, some concept, and also applied for 2 grants. And then I think that's it for the other stormwater work that we've done in the Midcoast has been focused not so much on the impacts of flooding, but on pollutants washing across the landscape from stormwater. So a lot of our stormwater related work in the Midcoast area is really about landscape scale pollution, like the First Flush program and that sort of thing.
Okay, then my last question would be about the wildfire study we did, was it a year or 2 ago? And I just wondered if you were involved in any follow-up, or is there somebody at the county that I should be talking to? Remember, we had identified the Deer Creek area as a priority and so forth.
Yes, I know that Timothy can probably, I know he was here earlier today and maybe he'll come back another time and he can give you updates. So Timothy is the program manager for that program. And I know that he's been pursuing some of those recommendations and talking to landowners and trying to get some of these projects listed as priorities in various, planning efforts to make them competitive for funding, while at the same time that we've been moving forward with completing the projects that were already identified. That's the work that's being done at Quarry Park right now.
Is it written down somewhere?
Is which written down?
The wildfire work you're talking about at Quarry Park?
Well, I mean, a lot of the wildfire work that he's doing is the thing that's written down is the plan that we developed with the community and county parks and others. So, I mean, he's pursuing opportunities to implement that plan.
Okay, so parks would have the plan.
Oh, the plan is, I mean, it's not the plan, it's the analysis that we did. I'll pull it up for you. I'll share it.
Yeah, it has the different zones.
Yeah, the wildfire, let me find it. I mean, you guys have it also on your website. The Midcoast Community Council has that report on your
Okay.
website.
I just wanted to know if there was anything concrete that we could point to that you guys were involved in, or otherwise we'll just go through talking parks.
Yeah, I mean, I think one concrete thing we're involved with is the work that's happening right now in Quarry Park. By the way, I wanted to share something with you all about that. I did find, in case this is helpful, I have a photo here of, let me pull it up, of what it looks like. One of the stumps where we applied glyphosate. If anybody wants to see what that looks like. Here we go.
Yeah. Let me make her co-host
So,
again.
I think I
guess she can do it.
So this is it. So this is what the glyphosate application looks like. Do you see that blue ring around the stump? And you can see it there just to take you back to biology and your educational career. The only part of the tree that's actually growing is the cambium. So that's the layer that's just inside the bark. And so after they cut the trees, the stump, they paint this blue line. The blue is a dye basically to show you where the herbicide has been applied. So that blue ring there, and then that one there, that's an example of what it looks like in case anybody's interested in seeing that.
Did anybody else have any questions for Kellex? Go ahead, Ian. No, we have a question, but Ian can't be heard.
Computer, that works.
Can you hear me in this computer?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. So I've identified red-legged frog habitat in Moss Beach, particularly out in front of the post office as well. It's right next to the highway there in a culvert. And I'm assuming that they are migrating from the Montera Creek. And I just wanted to know if there is anyone kind of looking into, because there are so many proposed road improvements, building Cypress Point, is anyone taking a look to make sure that everything is being done to make sure that we are not going to hurt their habitat any further? I've done a lot of research on it. I mean, 90% of their habitat is gone. And this is one of the only regions that they are still living in. And so it is of great importance to me that we don't see this species extinct.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is Mark Twain's Leaping Frog
Thank
in
you.
Calaveras County, right? But now it's in San Mateo County. So there's I have a couple reflections to offer in response to that question. One is, first of all, it's cool that you saw California red-legged frog. They're beautiful animals, I think. Fortunately, while so much of their habitat is gone, they're actually very abundant in coastal San Mateo County, very, very abundant. We still have to take all sorts of protective measures for them to make sure that they stay abundant and that their populations recover, but their population is doing pretty well, relatively well in many parts of coastal San Mateo County. I've seen them in urban creeks. I've seen them on stained mattresses and debris that was in a creek. I've seen them in ditches on the side of roads. Because they are so widely present in a lot of the area where we work, typically, I can't answer your question about whether there's anybody who's paying attention to all of this together, but I can tell you that any project that moves forward that I've been involved with and that I know of moving forward has to do environmental review and all sorts of avoidance measures to protect the frog. So for example, in our projects, even our projects that are restoring habitat for the frog, and we have a number of them, we still have to have like a biologist on site to make sure that when we are bringing equipment in or vehicles in, we have to do a sweep to make sure that no frogs are harmed, and we have to do all sorts of things to avoid impacts to individuals or to the population. I don't know of anybody who's tracking, on that global sense of is everything, protecting the frog, but I do know that almost any permit that you would need to, any project that needs permitting has to go through some sort of review pertaining to the frog. Does that answer your question? Yeah, okay.
Okay, I think we're satisfied.
Right.
Do you want to borrow one more time? I'll ask one more question.
Scott has one more question. Do you have a microphone, Scott?
Hey, can you hear me? Cool. Hey, so there's an open space between Miramar and El Granada. I guess they call it Murata Surf East. And they've cut down 100% of the trees, the eucalyptus trees in that forest. And I just wondered if you know what the plan is and why they're doing that. I'm not objecting to it. I just wondered why they've cut down every single tree and stacked up all the logs.
Yes, actually, I believe that's a project that we're doing currently. So, so I should know more about that. This was part of, I believe this is part of the fuel load reduction work and overall the general interest in reducing eucalyptus. In terms of like what the specific plan or the design was, I'm sorry that I don't know more, but we'll have to ask Timothy to fill you in on that when at the next Midcoast Community Council meeting. He was here earlier, but dropped off somehow. But I can ask him to come back and report out on that.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the public? Alex, I want to thank you for your time. Go have fun. So I'm going to suggest we go ahead with the meeting using caution and the echo. Is that all right?
So Dan is making this work.
Just so everybody knows, the way the room's talking, I have to mute this. So it's helpful to give me a little signal or raise your fingers and when you're gonna talk. I can need a little moment to unmute it. Or I can just do the way I was doing.
My question is, what are they hearing? When we talk, and if you are putting that down, they.
He's muting the TV, so we don't have that.
You don't hear the feedback.
But are they hearing? That's what I.
Yeah.
I think they're hearing the feedback.
Alex was hearing us.
Oh, yeah, it's fine. Dan's just giving the feedback.
Alex was a member of the public.
I can still hear you, but now, in case it's helpful for you to hear, I hear some people mumbling in the background.
So the next agenda topic I had was on managing Midcoast priorities. I wanted to follow up on a whole bunch of stuff. Let me start off by just sharing some information. You may remember that we asked the county for an analysis of the flow of funds and what property tax revenue they would have received from us. That was the first part of it. And so we got our answer on November 6th, and I've got it on the screen here. I'm just scrolling down. Basically, it's complicated, but they said that we generate $1,351,536.56 in property taxes. Okay. So let's see, I don't know how to control it, but at any rate, let me stop doing that. Clear. Okay.
Every year, the Midcoast is county, do property taxes, $1,352,000.
Well, that's what they said. That is what the county said. So now, while I was waiting for that answer, I was trying to figure out, they were saying it's difficult to do, and they don't normally keep track of the money that way. And the chief financial officer has offered to discuss any questions, and we're going to have some. So this is not going to be a resolved issue presentation tonight. I'm just telling you what we've heard. Okay. So while we were looking at that, I became aware from attending meetings at Montera and Granada that they get an assessment report every year from the county. And here is Granada's report. Granada, for instance, shows $2.4 billion in property valuation in their district. Okay, they can hear us. Okay. Jason, for some reason, the microphones here aren't working. We've turned on our Zoom. We think people can hear it, but we don't really know what's happening. He's muting the screen to prevent the feedback.
Let me turn off stop my share. And I'm going to mute my microphone on my PC. Can anybody hear? Dan, is the screen on? My microphone doesn't seem to be speaking, is it?
Yes, we can hear you.
Unmuted.
Hey, can you hear us, Fran?
Fran, can you
Yes.
hear me talk on my desk microphone here?
Yes, that's much better than the other system. Just
Okay,
talk,
Fran.
it's all clear when you're talking through the computers, like all of us are doing.
Turn your computer off, see if the mic's working.
I did mute my computer to test the mic, and I'm asking whether people in the audience can hear. You can hear us. Okay.
I can
So
hear
the
you
mi-
too.
All right. So the microphones are working. It was something about the colors on the
Are all
slider.
laptops muted?
Yes.
Line off? Okay, well, that's.
All right. So we're back in business. So I'm just going to go back and run through what I was researching here. So there are assessment reports provided to special districts. It has to do with their allocation of state revenues and property taxes. So Granada has 2.47 billion, and there's some exceptions and exemptions and details. Montera has a similar report, and they had 1.763 billion in assessed property tax valuation. So I was thinking $1 million something in property tax revenue seemed awful low, given that we have something like 5,000 households connected to sewers in the Midcoast. Just didn't seem high enough. I also went to Half Moon Bay and Pacifica's financial data and got some data on what they get. So for instance, the city of Half Moon Bay here has $4.6 million roughly in property tax revenues that they receive. 6,000 and change parcels, 3.5 billion in assessed value. Okay. And then, as I said, I showed you the reports for Montera and Granada, their assessed values. So it's 4.2 something billion dollars. Now, as Sid was showing on her phone, there's a pie chart that shows the distribution of property tax revenues collected by the county. The number that's on the screenshot I have here of the pie chart is on the assessor's website. But what Sid was showing is a more current version of that pie chart, which I didn't get because it wasn't on the website. But by coincidence, the numbers that matter to us are the same. The 25% goes to the county and 16% goes to the cities. So I had asked Don Horsley this question a couple of years ago, how much of our revenue goes to the county? And he said 40%. Well, it looks like it's 41%. Okay, or maybe he's right. Maybe it is 40 and I don't have that. But what Sid was showing us totaled the same 40%. So I did the following calculations. County tax is 1% on assessed value. 1% on that $4.2 billion is $42 million in change. Okay, so that's what the county's getting. Now, they are giving to the school district, special districts, and these other parts of the pie chart, some of that money. But the 41% that they get to keep from us is more than double what they would get from a normal city. From a normal city, they would get 16%. So 41% of the 42 million means they're getting 17 million from us. And again, what they reported to us was $1 million and change. Okay, so I can't explain the difference. In talking or trading emails with the financial analyst at Half Moon Bay, he explained there could be several other issues. DMV license fees, property transfer taxes, and other things are added into the property taxes reported in Half Moon Bay. I don't have that information. I only have the assessed value times 1%, the 42 million. I am also aware that there's some complexities in the mapping of the special districts. There are properties in Montera and Moss Beach which are not connected to sewer and not connected to water and are on wells. So I don't know, maybe they're not included in the billions of dollars that are listed in Montera's assessment. I don't know the answer to that. It could be there's more property tax revenue than not. On the other hand, Granada has Murata, which has got two pieces to it, if I understand. There's part of Murata, which is in Half Moon Bay, and part which is in the Mid-Coast.
Miramar.
Miramar. Am I saying that wrong? Miramar. Thank you, Claire. So there could be some adjustment to the numbers I'm showing for GCSD, the $2.4 billion for GCSD. It could be, it's a lesser number. Okay. But then again, we'd have to increase it for things like DMV license fees, property transfer taxes. And then there's the question of business tax revenues. Okay. So if you look at Half Moon Bay's other tax revenues, they're only getting, what was it up here? 4.5 billion in property taxes. They get sales and use taxes of 3.3. The big deal is the transit occupancy tax from the Ritz and other hotels. And then there's other taxes. So Half Moon Bay has a huge amount of revenue that dwarfs the amount they get from residential property taxes. Certainly, I don't expect the Midcoast has a lot of transit occupancy tax. I think we have a couple. We leave 1 or 2 hotels in Granada. So there would be some revenue there. I don't know what the sales and use taxes would be, but I know El Granada has the Princeton Harbor, and I think Montera has part of that. So there's some businesses in there. And so I'm just saying there's a complicated picture before you got to the bottom line of what the taxes would be, whether you call them property taxes or more broadly, there's work that needs to be done. But look at this. Our population, according to a county website from 2021, is 11,541. Okay. Half Moon Bay's, according to the 2022 census numbers, remember there's a census in 2020, populations went down. So a little. Half Moon Bay's is 11,176 and Pacifica is 36,517. Taking the numbers off the financial statements in the city of Pacifica, they booked 14,445,000 in property tax revenue for those 36,517 people. Half Moon Bay booked that 4.5 million that I talked about before for their 11,000 people. And depending on whether you take the number that the chief financial officer gave us, we are either 1.3 million or my calculation more like 17 million in property taxes. So if you look at that on a per capita basis, okay, it looks like Half Moon Bay has $411 of property tax per person. Pacifica has $396, and our number is either 1,505 or 117. So I put it on a graph. So the point I wanted to make in asking for these numbers is the question of, is the Midcoast capable of fiscal sustainability and worth spending money on? All right. And it looks to me, just knowing that we provide 41% of our property tax revenue to the county, as opposed to a city that provides 16%, that certainly we would be higher than the numbers that are close to $400 a person of Pacifica and Half Moon Bay. But I don't know what the right number is. But I just wanted to share that analysis to say, a year or two from now, when I'm not on the council and have time to research this, I think it's worth looking into. But it seems to me that we are financially as significant or more so than a local city or town. Questions, Kimberly?
So this might be a dumb question, but you know, when you say that the cities are contributing less, I would imagine that that's partially because the cities are responsible for providing a certain amount of services that they have to pay for per individual, whereas we don't. The county provides that for us.
No, we're only looking at revenue. So your question is about expenses. On the revenue side, the cities only get the red part of this pie chart, the 16%. That's why their number is lower, where we also provide the dark blue part, the 25%. That's just revenue. And you are correct, of course. Cities have other services that they provide, roads and, you know, what they're doing for the homeless and stuff. And I don't know how our expense side in terms of maintenance of our roads is handled, but I haven't looked at expenses. So all I was trying to make the point is that there is some revenue out here, and I think it's significant, and it's going to lead to the question of what kind of support should the Midcoast Community Council have in managing issues, and what kind of funding should we expect to be spent? Now, last night I was at the celebration, and I was fortunate enough to bump into, and Gus was there too. Well, we meet 4 or 5 people from North Fair Oaks, and we also met the Pescadero guy. And North Fair Oaks is another unincorporated area. And what's fascinating is the county provides services for them that include their website, doing their agendas, doing their minutes, and a whole bunch of coordination on action items. Okay. I don't have all the details, but I have the card of the guy who's the chairman, and I talked to a couple of the people who were there, and they're quite clear on the things the county has done for them. And Ann has noticed over the years the amount of money that North Fair Oaks has had spent on them, including a few $1 million on sewer improvements. Boy, we could sure use that given what the situation at Sam is. So I'm saying, I think it's worth it on behalf of the council that we explore this monetary issue, and that we look for the kind of administrative capacity that North Fair Oaks is getting. We're only 3,500 people smaller than they are. So that's why I'm bringing it to the council. So comments, questions?
So can we ask that question? What is the difference between North Fair Oaks and us?
Oh, yeah, of course we can ask it. And so, but the other thing is the analysis we got from the chief financial officer had a lot of detail. The letter is in this file. And I'll have to admit, I have not mastered all that detail, but I'm providing my own, what do you want to call it? Naive perspective. And I want to know where I'm wrong. And I can't figure out where I'm missing something. And so that was my message. Any other questions or comments on this topic before we move into the next thing, which is what are the issues that we're looking for follow-up on?
I guess, may I? I guess my question at this point is it's not clear to me what goals we have related to this that we're trying to address. I mean, I understand the larger overarching goal that you're reaching for, but what are the specific goals that we're hoping to accomplish by pursuing this?
Okay, so speaking for myself, the goals that I'm hoping to accomplish are shown on this document.
The MCC, I mean, the MCC is a body. What is it that by putting our time into this, what do we hope to achieve?
Getting funding for the things we asked for earlier this year. And those include the items on this color-coded table, which was posted. So I'm looking basically for both administrative capacity to follow up and manage issues and money to pay for the things that we already said we wanted. Is that clear? Any questions about that? Okay, so let's just go. Yeah, go ahead.
So I think it's a good idea. I think the community would like to know this information. So my suggestion is that it gets put down kind of like in a fact sheet, whether it's a pie chart or a bar chart or something that's a little bit more easier to kind of absorb, and the comparisons, if you want to do like our situation versus Pacifica City or whatever.
I'm open to suggestions on format. I'd be happy to entertain it.
So
I also think we have to go back to the chief financial officer at some point and ask what's wrong with our analysis and hear what we might be missing.
So it would be, I think in the short run, we have questions, right? You have some discrepancy in the data that you just showed us. Why don't we get the guy in here immediately and have him explain what you perceive to be the right answer is and what they tell you?
I don't know that we need to get the guy in here. The chief financial officer of the county is a busy guy.
Okay.
I think we asked Mike to look at what we've done. Okay. And he can talk it over with Ray.
Okay.
And they can decide what makes sense. Okay. But we're still going to ask for increased administrative capacity to follow through on issues. And what about the minutes and the agendas and all the other things that we spend our time doing? If you're a city council, you're not publishing your own agenda. You're not sending out emails publishing. You're not doing minutes. Okay. You have a staff that brings to you the things you should be worried about. And instead, we can't even cover all the meetings. One of the complaints I've gotten is about some members of the MCC and former members of the MCC who are going out asking questions. Okay, but who else would cover the transportation and wildfire issues if we didn't have somebody like Len doing it? We're not going to the Fire Safe San Mateo meetings every week or two. So we could really use help just covering the bases. Okay, in my opinion, that's what I'm discussing. Kimberly?
So I don't disagree with that. I think instead of comparing ourselves to cities, I think the more valuable comparison is to do that comparison with other unincorporated areas in the county. And so the North Fair Oaks comparison seems to me to be a good place to start, to have that comparison and understand why they are prioritized differently than the Midcoast.
Okay, I appreciate your comment. Is there more to it?
No.
Okay, I disagree with it because right now Half Moon Bay is getting the money and we're not. Yet we contribute more than double the per capita property taxes. So I think it's a fair comparison.
That, but I would like to know that answer. I mean, if the county is prioritizing one area significantly more than another, I'd want to know why that is.
Yeah, and so would I. And I will try and do my best with the North Fair Oaks people to see what I can learn. Claire?
I'd like to propose a possible answer to that. And I think it's something we need to be cautious about. And I just verified this as it is true. It is not just a rumor. We were elected. North Fair Oaks is not elected. The members of the North Fair Oaks Community Council, or whatever they call themselves, are appointed by the Board of Supervisors. And the Board of Supervisors takes ownership of that body. They're not an independent body. And I don't know if we can get the benefits that they have without them controlling us. I think it's something that we need to be careful about.
I'll throw out one other data point. The fellow who's the chair, Brooks is his name. I think he told me the staff support they get is from something like the Office of Community Services or something like that. Warren Slocum is their supervisor. And I found that strange because the staff we've relied on, from Don Horsley and before him, Rich Gordon, and now with Ray, has been employees on the staff of the supervisor. So I found it interesting, but to your point, Claire, maybe because it's a appointed body of the county then provides the staff. I don't know the answer.
So I agree with you, Claire, that makes it much more complicated and sensitive. I guess, I mean, there's so much wrong with that. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like we're penalized for being an independent voice. And
I can't speak to penalize. Certainly Ray has been sensitive to our issues since even before he was elected. Okay, and I know that because I discussed Chris with him.
I'm not saying that's not the case.
Yeah.
It's just there's a clear difference there that.
Okay, so maybe we shouldn't compare ourselves, but we still want it. Right?
Exactly.
Right.
There you go.
We
Okay.
want this. We need this.
Okay.
To serve our community better. We need this.
And that's the point.
Assistance.
That is the point. When I looked through these issues, and I received some criticism, by the way, that the
Thanks,
format
Michelle.
of this issues list does not match what we did at the retreat. And I'm sorry, I just went through the agenda. You know, I don't have the administrative capacity to keep a rolling monthly list of issues in the same format all the time. I just went through and did this. Let's just look at some of the issues. The community fiber issue, we produced this 40-something page report, and we circulated it to all the local agencies in the Midcoast, and we got the endorsement of everybody except, I think, GCSD, or maybe we even got GCSD, but they were late. So we got the school district, the sewer district, you know, the water districts to all say, and Half Moon Bay to say, yes, we want this. And I don't have an answer on two questions. One is I asked, and the guy from Pescadero, who's the chair, asked the same question. Well, if we got money, who would hold it? Because as advisory boards, we can't hold it, right? Well, I had asked Tim Fox to create a legal entity so that we could have a community fiber organization, which if we got grant money from the state, from the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative, we would hold the money. And so it took him about a month, and he replied to me, he was waiting for guidance from the county executive on whether they could create a legal entity for us. Now, this contrasts with strongly what is happening in Marin, Kern, Humboldt, and a dozen other counties that Leo Gomez can send you the grant applications on. Those counties are creating a community fiber network for their citizens, and they're driving it. Okay, right? In this county, it seems like if you're not in the city, they're not doing it. And so we asked them to fund a feasibility study. Now, I have heard around the edges through the grapevine for people I talk to in Half Moon Bay who talk to people, but it's not official. I've heard we're not going to get a feasibility study funded, but I don't want to rely on that. I would like to hear a written reply on what the county thinks about the situation and what they want to do about it and why or why not, or what alternatives they're proposing. I'm not saying we know every answer. You know, Leo Gomez certainly has strong opinions in that report, but we have issues that go beyond the fiber. We have a lack of battery backup at several of the installations for cell and internet. We have a lack of generators. We have a lack of coverage. We have low speed. So there's a dozen or half a dozen issues. It's not just a cable through the tunnel for Comcast. It's broader. And so I haven't heard an engagement. So Mike, that's my question. Why isn't the county giving us an answer? Even if it's an answer we're not going to like, at least could they explain why that answer is the answer?
Ray told me he wasn't going to do it.
Well, there you go. See, I have not officially been told that, and I don't know why. Okay. And then there's an overlapping issue. We just heard that Half Moon Bay's got this money for some sort of stimulating business growth, opportunity center. What do they call it?
We went through that as we were originally included, and then we weren't included.
It doesn't matter if we were included. My question is, how do you think you can get businesses to start in Half Moon Bay without fixing your fiber problem? And Deborah Penrose has begged me to work on this, right? Personally. Okay. And Harvey likes it. And the council in Half Moon Bay put it in their planning thing and they colored it green. So, all right, if they're not going to fund our community fiber network, are they going to fund one for Half Moon Bay and we can join?
No.
Okay. Well, so
because we're not, what I'm not, maybe I'm quoting him wrong, but what he said basically was that he has to get all the supervisors to approve it, and we're just one little piece of the county that isn't very big and very populous.
Okay, so maybe we need to help him by campaigning for what we want with the other supervisors, but I don't want to go there without him agreeing that there's a course of action that we could take. Okay, but it does seem, again, Marin County is doing this countywide. Kern County is doing this countywide. So I can't explain what our supervisor's reaction is. Money is always an issue. Then in stormwater, we've made a couple of presentations, more than Dan wishes we'd made on stormwater, and we're working on a report. We don't have any reply until tonight. We heard Ray verbally say he's going to do something. We don't have any specifics. And we also know from talking to residents that the RCD and Ray have been to El Granada and First Street. Okay. But we don't have any detailed answers. Okay. I guess I'm just used to a world where somebody would say, this is what we're doing, you know, but I've gotten the information for the residents. I think we still finish the stormwater report, wrap a bow on it and say, okay, now we know RCD is doing X and so forth. We haven't gotten our business cards yet. You just heard Kellex explain why she's not going to host the forum for RCD, but I asked Nick Calderon if he would explain what they're doing, because we have a request from residents concerned about pesticides and they want us to do something. And I just thought it would be nice to hear the county's position first, but we haven't yet gotten an agreement on who's going to tell us the county's position. I hope to hear from Nicholas. Certainly on the Highway 1 and transportation issues, while things are slow, we've had a ton of communication on those. Chanda has been very proactive about telling us what's going on the Moss Beach corridor. All right. We've had other presentations, so I'm less worried about that. And then there's CRISP. I know Ray was granted the $200,000, but I don't know what is being done with it. And he made some comments tonight, but I would hope for a process where Pacifica, Half Moon Bay, the Midcoast, and maybe Pescadero all have a representative on the consulting team, just as we did for the wildfire study in Quarry Park with RCD. And we help select the consultant, we define the scope of the engagement, and we help work on the project. We're not going to do the work, but we're going to be like a steering committee, I would hope. I haven't heard anything about that. On Measure K funding, we got the flow of funds analysis. We already discussed that. We had given some requests for funding, but they weren't an official vote of the council. And so Mike asked that the council take a specific vote, and we did. We sent the letter requesting funding on August 18th. And I haven't heard anything, although Ray spoke to asking for some stuff. So I'm hoping we're going to get some details. Okay. Fentanyl wastewater testing. I even have middle managers in the public health department agree. We wrote a letter. We said, can we do this? Nobody said no. If they said no, I guess I could understand it. They've got other priorities, but it seemed like a useful public health initiative at the cost of about $1,000 a month. So maybe it just isn't going to be approved. On the CARES program, I don't know if you remember, we asked for a few $100,000 to split the cost at Half Moon Bay, so they didn't have to bear the burden of a CARES program. Admittedly, maybe most of the population being served is in Half Moon Bay, but I thought it would be nice, since our population is half of or equal to theirs, a little larger actually, that we split it. But I haven't heard what's happening with the CARES program, so I haven't got an answer. And then we have the Montara Mountain issue, which is kind of underway. Kimberly's done a lot of work there. I think that's on the rails. We just don't know the full scope of what we're going to request. Okay. And in Cypress Point, we submitted a 76-page comment report, and it was acknowledged. And we heard from Lisa that it's going to be a while before they get back to us. So that's kind of on the rails. And then I had asked some fire safety questions that grew out of the Cypress Point report. And we got a one-line reply. It basically said, we'll take care of any ingress and egress issues, ignoring the questions about the fire hydrant pressure, the water. So I would like to write back to CFPD and say, by the way, here are the sections of our report where we raise questions about how you're going to get in and out, and why don't you have a different entrance? So for emergency vehicles, does anybody have a problem with me writing that email asking for a more detailed response for Cal Fire Protection District? Do we have to go through you to ask California Fire Protection District?
They're a separate district.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that I just wanted to share that we had a bunch of issues, and I was looking for updates. And what do we have in the chat?
That spreadsheet, can you share that with the whole council so that we can look back
It's
at
on the
that?
website.
I didn't see it there.
It's on the website under status/list, item 4B. There's two links: flow of funds analysis, where I showed you the pie chart and the chart, and then the status list, which is this color coded thing that I just did. All right. So deep breath. Should I take public comment questions? Are there any public questions, public comments on the materials I have just presented to the community? I don't see any. All right, closing public comment on that issue. What does the council think about what I've been saying? Dan says I should simplify it and publicize it, if I heard it right.
Make it easier to understand the numbers and comparisons.
Okay.
Yeah, I would need to study it with you or somebody to help me understand exactly what's going on in the financials. I don't, it was too quick for me right there, but I would like to go through it and find out what the discrepancies are and like how we can get more of the pie here.
So there are really two issues. Two issues are, one is understanding the flow of funds, and the other is following up on our action items and requests. So if you're interested in understanding more of the flow of funds, I can discuss it with you separately.
Okay. But that leads to the action items. We have money for the action items if there was more flow back into us, right?
That's my opinion.
Yeah. Okay.
Kimberly, on the information that you're coming up with, you said that some of it has to be confirmed or whatever. You're not.
We're waiting for the response, right?
Right. You've come up with some information that, from everything that we've got, this is what we believe is true. That it's
the financial side. Yes.
Just put like a question mark around, or to be confirmed, or waiting for county to confirm.
Well,
just so that we know what is fact and what we're not we're pretty sure about, we're not positive about.
Right. I think the next step would be for me to write the chief financial officer back and ask him about the analysis I'm conducting, what he thinks about it and what I'm missing. I don't want to do that yet until members of the community who have some expertise in things like real estate and property taxes help advise me. I don't want to go pester the guy, right? And I don't think it's an urgent issue because I think it's obvious there's money there anyway, okay? But I will, and I can come to the council with a suggested letter if you want, or I can just write him back independently, questions I might have to refine it, whatever you all think is best. And that can be done after we finish the stormwater report, after we worry about the dark skies, after we worry about the mountain, after we worry about the pesticides and the other things, you know.
So I need to sit with this a little, but the only thing that occurs to me is that I'm a little uncomfortable with anyone, even the chair, sending a letter without all of us having at least seen it to comment and approve.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. So I will defer to the council before I take any further action on that. Claire, do you have anything to say?
I was uncertain which topic we were commenting.
We're
on.
talking on the
I thought we were
issues.
talking about the money.
Oh, we were talking about both. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking we were talking about our list of things that haven't been followed up on.
We're talking about that too.
And I was thinking that if we had some sort of system, whether it's a person or what, who, well, not Mike, because I don't mean Mike, because Mike has a role and he works really hard and he's here with us and he's in the office all the time. And still, we need something that's more systemic that allows us to communicate with the county and get answers to these things. And if we had somebody that did make phone calls and there was our person that made phone calls and followed up on things and talked to people, that a lot of this would be solved. So if we are asking for more clerical support or administrative support or something, I think that would be very helpful in getting more answers to things. So that's what I thought we were talking about.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think that getting administrative support would really be helpful. And I think it would be helpful for the county to know, to kind of bridge the communication barrier that sometimes happens. And I think that that would just be really helpful. Also, I'm not really clear as to why there is not a breakdown of where funds are being spent
You mean on the Midcoast?
on the Midcoast. Or even just in all unincorporated areas.
It's because they don't do their bookkeeping that way. It's
Yeah.
all by department.
Okay.
Functional area.
Yeah.
Gus, anything?
On the administrative support thing, is there an opportunity to make a pitch jointly with PMAC where maybe instead of pitching for a dedicated resource that's just dedicated to us, we pitch for a shared thing? Like our meetings aren't on the same days as theirs, are they?
I don't know.
They are.
But
The same day, really? No, that's just screwed that idea up. But anyway, well,
Could have a special call, for special meeting.
well, I just meant sort of like if we had somebody who was administrative, who was like helping with the minutes and that kind of thing, they would need to attend the meeting, right? I mean, at least I mean, I guess they could watch the recording.
They could watch the recording and prepare the minutes.
All right, fine. All right, so maybe it isn't such a problem. But basically, it might be an easier sell to the county if it's one resource that's supporting both us and them, as opposed to just dedicated to us. But it's probably reasonable to is that we're not quite big enough to merit like one person just solely devoted to us. So anyway, so I just think there's maybe an opportunity for a joint pitch.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. And I had a second thought, except I'd forgotten it. So
well, I'll say a couple of words and you'll probably think of it. So my concern,
okay,
you know, in listing all these issues I'm embarrassed on behalf of my constituents.
Mhm.
That, you know, they came to us and asked us to do these things and we agreed and we put out, you know, the letters and we're not getting them an answer. And so I know we're unincorporated, but I don't want us to be disenfranchised. You know, I don't want that to be the tone. All right, Gus, you were going to say something more?
Yeah, I was curious what the, like, are there protocols in terms of our ability as council members to talk to the other supervisors? Because some of it, I think, maybe just boils down to the other supervisors have their own areas. So we're out of sight, out of mind. Like, you know, is there an opportunity to try to build some relationships with some of the?
Mike, you might want to speak to this because you gave us an email a while ago. You might want to explain why you gave us that email and what you want to accomplish with it.
Basically, I sent an email to Greg that we would really like to have all the communications go directly to the supervisor's office, because then I will know, or whoever gets it will know who to send it to. Okay, like Dan brought up a thing of there was a tree branch that fell down, and he talked to the sheriff's department and the fire department. Then he sent me an email, and I sent it to Public Works and got done in a day or 2 days a month. You know, so I think, and then that will also allow me to take and start to develop some tracking system to know that, okay, this is an issue. But a lot of the stuff you're talking about is stuff that's going to take years to get done. You know what I mean? Or months, right? I mean, to fix the stormwater system.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like that's going to be quite a while, right? It has to be designed, you gotta get permits, you gotta put out a bid, you gotta get, I mean, optimistically, you're looking at a year, but I'm probably more realistically looking at 2 years, right? So, but by having it on a tracking system, we're going through the supervisors, I will take on the responsibility of trying to follow up, okay? And, you know, you might get an update that just says, nothing happened this month. You know what I mean? Because, you know, we sent it to the state of California, you're waiting for a grant, you're waiting for something, you know, some guy to come back from vacation, who knows, all right? Some of the stuff, your comments on Cypress Point, that you're not gonna get an individual comment because your comment is in there with every other public comment.
Oh, we don't expect it.
And that is.
That's a red herring. The more basic things are asking for fentanyl testing or the CARES program funding. Yeah.
Okay, so-
Okay, you passed it on.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know, I mean, does that answer your question that when we're gonna have? Going through the board of supervisors office to get so we know where to send it to get tracked, and that's all I can say.
Does that
Yeah, I got a
apply to, like, if we write a letter and we all approve it and we're writing it to the Parks Department with, as well as to Ray's office? You don't want us to send it to the Parks
Send
Department?
it through us, okay?
Why?
Well, you are an advisory commission or committee, right? You're not you don't have really, I know this is a sore point, you don't have a budget, you cannot allocate money, right? So they want, the ruling I was told was to go everything through the supervisor's office, and I will forward it to the Parks Department.
And who told you that?
The county executives and the supervisors.
Was the county executive getting tired of hearing from us?
I don't know, I didn't talk to them. I mean.
You got an email or something?
So just for as an example, taking your example, if we write a letter about pesticides and we express some opinion or request for action, we address the email and the letter to Ray Mueller.
I don't see any reason why you couldn't address it Ray Mueller and Parks Department, you know, address it to both.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we email it only though to you.
And then I will forward it, yeah. And then in regards to the original question, you know, you're a citizen of San Mateo County, there's nothing stopping you from contacting any other supervisor. The specific, you know, if you, let's say there's something coming up on the board, some Measure K funding, you want to lobby, there's nothing stopping you from calling another supervisor. Yours is the same down.
All right,
But it's-
just to be clear, what I've done with you in the past several times is I'd write you an email saying, who should we send this to? And you've told me who to send it to.
And that was
And I've
prior
sent it to
me-
Gina and you and Ray also.
Because that was prior to me being told, go through me or the supervisor.
Scott?
So is using your office as a middleman of communication going to speed up our requests or concerns to some other department? Is it gonna speed it up somehow, putting another person in the way? So if I send it to you,
Yeah, I mean,
and then you have to come back to tell us, because you sent it to them and then they send it to you, then you tell
well,
us.
you see, that's one of the things I think, like right now, you know, Greg sends a letter out, he sends it to, let's say, 2 or 3 departments.
Well,
I
that
don't know
would,
who's
why,
responding back.
but why would he send it to 3? We were specifically asking one department.
You know, in the past, there's been questions raised. Okay, and Greg has sent an email to no, I'm just making it up, okay? Myself, he sends it to Parks and maybe Public Works.
Well, if it's a parks issue, send it to parks and then.
Did I finish?
Go ahead.
Okay, he sends it to Parks. I'm not getting the response. Do I know? I don't know if Parks has responded. Well, if I send an email to Parks, they'll respond to me and then I'll pass it on.
But why not respond to us? Since we
And
wrote the letter.
then they copy, you know, I don't know how they'll respond. Don't work.
We're the ones that are sending the
I
letter.
don't work for Parks, so if they want to respond directly to you, I'm certainly not gonna stand in the way, because then it's kind of, you know, principle to principle type of thing.
Yeah, Kimberly?
Yeah, so I think this is partly an educational issue and it's partly, first of all, this council is an independent advisory body to advise the supervisor, and many of the letters that we send, including the ones that you questioned recently, were to the supervisor. Those letters were not final when you asked for them. So there's a process that we're going through, and it's a long established process. Also, if you look at the bylaws and the way that this council was set up, it's not set up that way to funnel communications through you or the supervisor and have it censored or vetoed or judged in some way.
I do not feel I would ever censor you.
So I don't think you have a legal leg to stand on there. I think when the council approves an action, and a lot of times that's a letter, I think it is within our right and our process that's well established to send that letter to whichever agency, and we can copy the supervisor, which is customary.
I'm only saying county departments, if you want to send something to the state, that's your purview. That's what I was told.
But I take issue too, because there have been some really big things that the community has come out, particularly Cypress Point. And they have come out very strong against it. And we've offered suggestions about alternatives such as senior housing. We get nothing. And I feel that we have a right to present to whichever department and whomever, are concerned. And I feel like I'm concerned that if it only goes to you, and now let's take another thing, the Moss Beach Highway improvement, which is all tied into Cypress Point. It's not independent. We should have a right to ask questions of the different departments, including Caltrans. I mean,
We do have that right.
We do,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying that if it goes to you, how do we know what's getting sent and to whom? And
When you're responding to someone like Cypress Point, that is the planning department, which is doing public comment, and you would just be part of the public comment. If you want to send me a copy, fine. When you send something for the planning department or Cypress Point, that is just part of the planning process. We're not infringing on that.
oh, that's okay. But
Yeah.
also like now with the Supervisor Mueller, how do we express the concerns that the community has so that he can represent us? Because right now everything is just RENA numbers and everything's going through it seems, without any concern whatsoever for the community. And one of the things Greg just brought up was firefighting. I mean, we have a firehouse in the middle of the community where you're trying to build this massive development, and there are going to be traffic and so many issues that their EIR said they cannot fix.
Well, Mike addressed that. He said we could write CFPD separately, but of course we would copy Ray and
Right.
Gina and Mike
But I just wanted to
anyway.
make sure that this gets addressed, because it's serious. This is really serious. This affects the community at large. And we're here to represent them. And I'm just concerned that I don't want our concerns to be stifled and stopped before it ever gets out.
All right, can we hear from Gus too?
Thanks.
So I just wanted to reiterate, when it's a Cypress Point or any development project, okay? Planning has their procedures of its open 90 days for public comment, 30 days, here's the CEQA, et cetera, right? That you're free to contact them directly because it's a planning issue, planning department, you know, send us a courtesy copy so that the supervisor is aware of your concerns. You know what I mean? And we put it in a file and then, you know, he reads it, I don't know whether he reads it every day or every week or whatever he does, you know. But yeah, no, when to a separate, for a department on a public comment, send it to them. And to, you know, in Eshu's office, Caltrans, Becker, Berman, yeah, send it to them. Yeah.
Okay.
Gus?
Yeah, first, if we have to actually route communication through you, then I would not actually describe us as an independent advisory body, first of all. Second of all, like with what you just said in the last 10 seconds, now it sounds like an extremely complicated process to understand, like which things would be routed through you and which things aren't. But regardless of that, setting that aside, what happens if we just like literally just don't do that? And when I say just don't do that, of course, any communication we would send to anybody officially, of course, Ray gets a courtesy copy of that. And honestly, we would hope, since everything happens over a course of a process, he would know in advance of anything we were going to do. Like the courtesy copy is just something for the file. He already knows where we are on all these issues through you. But this whole like everything has to kind of like funnel through some weird thing that makes us not look particularly independent to our own constituents. Like, what if we just like didn't do that?
I don't know what, you know, I'll be honest, you know, I mean, this advisory board, I guess I do not want you to take this as a threat, but it was created by the board of supervisors.
Sure.
You know what I mean, as an advisory board. So that's what the bylaws say, that's what it was created, the same as down there. In North Fair Oaks, I think they were all created at the same time. I could be mistaken on that, but you know.
Mike, I just want to understand where all this is coming from, if I may. I can imagine two reasons why you come out with this edict. And one is that Ray wants to keep track of what we're doing, and so that he can help us make sure that things happen we're asking for. Like, look at the big long list of things that haven't happened, so that he can be on top of it and help with that. I can imagine that. I can also imagine that there are people in other parts of the county who are sick of hearing from us or hearing from people who are associated with us and want to know what the hell is going on and are complaining to Ray's office about us. Which is it? Or both?
Ray wants to serve you both, you know, wants to do what he can to help you. But he would like to know what's going on, so that's what he wanted there. However, Ray has his employees, okay? And he does not supervise people that are calling other departments and wanting hour-long meetings with other staff members of county employees. And is getting back that we want this, and this, but that department doesn't know anything about it. Is it a priority of Ray's? Does Ray want to see this done? Does the board of supervisors want to see this done?
Okay, I think that's
a county priority.
I think that the first part is under control, that maybe we need better communication with the office or something, but he is getting what he needs from us. I think the second part is something we need to look at and make sure that what is actually going to county offices outside of Ray's office is stuff that we actually want to be going there, and that there aren't independent communications going to various places in the county that we don't even know about and that are causing problems. Because the things that are coming back to Ray's office and saying, is this really a priority? Maybe something we don't know about. So I think we need to tighten up our own process.
I think I know where we're going there.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think there's truth in what you're saying.
Are you talking about her meeting?
Both of you.
Okay.
There's definitely some requests for meetings and stuff that, isn't, what do you want to call it?
It's not coming from us.
It's not voted on, but
Yeah.
somebody representing the interests of the Midcoast is exploring what's going on and is pursuing information, aggressively. Okay. So I think we know that. Ray doesn't have a problem with people reporting things like culverts being plugged and tree branches being down.
No, I mean, that's the job.
I'm surprised that the email you put out didn't say, tell you about the routine stuff. Because I just.
Oh, no, the routine stuff, that's a job.
But Ray wants to be bothered by every tree branch and culvert that's plugged.
Well, I sent everybody that link, right, for you to report it yourself.
And still.
Because, I'm part-time,
That's a
right?
DPW issue.
Yeah, and that was a Department of Public Works issue. And I'm part-time, if I don't check my email, because I'm off that day, then, you have a day's delay while you do it according to oil.
So,
So
it's interesting you mentioned it, because the idea that we're going to focus more of the stuff through one single person implies that person's got to be working more hours. The coverage has to be higher.
Well, I do check my email.
All right, but go ahead, Kimberly, what were you gonna say?
Unless I'm on vacation.
There's still a piece of this that's really troubling to me, and that is that we can only conduct business in public meetings. And whether you're here or whether you're not here, you're supposed to be our liaison, keeping up with what is said in these meetings and reporting that to the supervisor. That is a clear route of communication, and nothing should be coming and surprising the supervisor. There should be nothing that is a surprise based on that. So I really want to push back on the fact that you want us to go through more hoops to communicate, because the communication system is already there. We can only do business in public at a public meeting. You are present for those public meetings. You hear the content of the meetings and the issues discussed and the needs expressed. And if any letters are issued, they are copied to the supervisor and you are aware of them. If you're not present, I'm assuming that you are listening to the video or reading the notes or following up to see what happened so that you can report to the supervisor. So I don't see adding another layer to that communication.
Well, whether we see it or not, apparently the request is coming from Mike Callaghy. So I would like to know more about that.
It's based on a problem that was new. And I think we don't know exactly what that is, but we have ideas what it might be.
We're all this is an issue, we're trying to figure out the best way to handle it. And that's why we're trying this method, we'll see how it works. Okay.
I'm sorry, I have to say, I disagree with this strongly.
Okay, so point taken.
We already have so much to keep up with and so many things to do. And asking us to go through a completely different process than has traditionally been established for this council, I feel is an overreach.
It is pretty much the same process you've always done, you've always gone through the supervisor's office, so.
No,
it is
not in that way.
So could I suggest that we're not going to resolve the discomfort or the uncomfort or whatever I'm hearing at this call, at this meeting? My request would be this.
We have public comment. If we want to have that heard before you.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's hear from Burnett. Thank you for pointing that out. I didn't see the hand. Burnett?
You're on mute.
Gotta push the right button. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about this, but there's also a distinction that you're not talking about, that you're elected, you're an advisory board, but you're elected, you're not appointed. I could understand being more control over an appointed individual, but when you're an elected individual, you also have responsibility to the individuals that elected you to that position. And I think that's where this really becomes a problem. And I think it actually should need to go through legal to determine how this really should work. Thanks.
All right, Len? Public comment, Len?
Yeah, I've reviewed letters over the last 3 chairs of the MCC on a number of issues. And they've always gone either directly to the party we're talking to, the Board of Supervisors overall. Our supervisor is always copied, but I've never found any instance where it was done the way it's now being proposed. So this is a change of process.
Okay, going back 20 years or something, you're saying?
I went through the last 3 chairs, myself, Claire, Michelle.
Okay. All right. I do understand that it could be a problem if the MCC were to cause different county departments to do things, without Ray knowing about it. That would be crazy. That'd be crazy. But my request would be this. Can you get us answers in writing with some detail on what the county is deciding to do or not to do about the things we asked for and why?
On that list.
On that list, especially the stuff in pink, but the stuff in yellow also. I mean, if they're going to not do fentanyl testing, I want to know why. I can understand them saying no if it's money issue or if they've got another approach. But I know the people in public health who agreed with me would like to hear that answer. And the same thing with the CARES funding. Did Half Moon Bay get the funding or didn't they? Is that viewed as a priority or not? So that would be my request. Okay. And I will leave it at that for now, although I can see that we're going to probably discuss this again. Okay. But Mike, we appreciate that you've got 4 bases to cover, dude. You got Pacifica and Half Moon Bay and the Farm Workers Bureau and us. So there's a lot on your plate. I think we can hold it for a future agenda topic, what we're going to ask for in terms of administrative capacity, and the answer to the procedures is going to be part of that. Okay. So I'm going to suggest we've discussed it enough tonight, and I appreciate you coming and, putting up with all our stuff. All right. Okay. So now I believe that concludes. Oh, Len, your hand's still up. Did you want to say more or are we done?
I just want to point out from previous priority lists, you removed transportation as a topic area, but I can cover that separately. So I'm not.
I do apologize that I don't seem to have a uniform tracking form that stays the same all the time. There is a transportation issue on that list. You may have noticed I did have colored green, the work that Shonda has done with us. But you're right. There's a bunch of other stuff that's not on that list. I only hit the stuff that we'd asked for in the proximate 7, 8, 9 months of this year. That's the stuff I put on.
No, I sent you the list that came out of the meetings in June that dealt with that.
Okay, we can add that to the list, but I think we're done with this topic for now. Okay, council activity. I already mentioned the water shut off at Montera. I already mentioned that I went to the recognition celebration. I thought Mike Callaghy, very good leadership there, holding a recognition for all the people who are working for free. I don't think I have anything else to say about council member activity. Gus?
I also went to the appreciation event and I thought it was very interesting to meet the Fair Oaks and the PMAC people. But that's all I have to say.
And
I don't have any updates.
Claire?
No.
So Kimberly?
No.
None from me. Dan? Okay, future agendas. It was brought to my attention, and I will admit I was hoping that Dan and I could keep our offices and not have to change the bank accounts and all that stuff. But Dave Olson pointed out to me that in fact it's in the bylaws. You cannot hold the same office 2 years in a row. And it's also in the bylaws that the officer elections are held in the first meeting in December. So we're going to have to think about what role we all are going to play. We are going to have to change at least Dan's signature on what do you call it? The bank account. I would hope that whatever office I hold.
Just make it real simple. We need to have a new treasurer.
New treasurer, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. But I hope I'll be allowed to stay on it, so we don't have to change both signatures and both online offices. But I need you to think about what office you'd be willing to fill going forward. As far as future agendas, I hope, Scott, we're going to get the minutes that we're missing. I know this is work, and I know you weren't even here for some of the meetings, but
Yeah, I'll finish up what, okay, this is what I have anticipated. This meeting is the last meeting that I will be delivering minutes for. I see some things from 11/29 coming.
let me explain.
Okay,
We would normally have our meeting on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, but that makes no sense at all. So I thought we had discussed this as a council, that we were instead going to hold the meeting on November 29th so that we didn't go 6 weeks without a meeting. Is that a surprise to anybody here? Or was this brought up? So we're holding a meeting on November 29th. The last meeting of which the current secretary would be responsible for minutes is the November 29th meeting.
okay.
December
So
13th,
that's because we have one meeting in November,
we had
one meeting in December.
we're supposed to have two in November, but we don't hold them on Thanksgiving, right?
Okay, all right, okay.
All right, so anyway, but December 13th, no, the new secretary would be doing that.
Okay.
So I'm sorry.
Yeah, I will print them out.
So future agendas, I'm proposing that we do have a meeting on November 29th. And I thought I had touched base and everybody was willing to do that. So I hope
So
it's
is
not a
that
surprise.
special meeting?
No, it's the
Oh,
regular
just-
meeting, but it's held at a different date. Okay, so call rescheduled. And at that meeting, I believe we're gonna have more follow-up on Montero Mountain, right, Kimberly? Kimberly's raising her hand.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that now?
We are gonna have we're gonna have a special meeting for that.
Not a special meeting for that. We're gonna have a November 29th regular meeting, and we're gonna talk about Montero Mountain at that meeting.
Can we talk about whether we're going to go look at the road or not?
Yeah, we can talk about that right now.
Yeah.
Well, first, I'm a little confused. So we change officers at the first meeting in December, and then the officers immediately take on their role at that meeting.
Right, that's what I'm understanding.
Okay, I didn't understand that before.
Scott's off the.
That's what we did. That's how. That's
Yeah,
how it last
Scott
time.
did the minutes, the first meeting he was on board in.
Got it. Okay. Well, that's all I had on that topic. So now we're moving on to the.
Well,
next.
you also, though, want to discuss in terms of its quasi future agenda. You were trying to arrange a tour and we ran into a problem with Tim Fox. I talked to him last night and he apologizes, but he's not responsible for the Brown Act. And what I understand is if more than 3 council members go on the same bus to view the tour of the mountain, we can't talk about the mountain to each other.
So this is a question, right? And you talked with him last night. I guess I'm wondering if there's more follow-up with Tim, because my understanding was we have to advertise it as a meeting, a special meeting, which then opens it to the public, and California State Parks can't accommodate the public. So I don't think we can do that.
No, she's right. She's right. He told us that we'd have to advertise a special meeting. I believe he said that in the email.
He did
So
say
the
that.
quick workaround is that only 3 of us go.
Well, but then there was a second piece to that, in that he said, I think we need more clarity from him, because I think what he said is that we could still go, however, there'd have to be some restriction on, we wouldn't be able to say anything, basically.
Yes, that
Now-
was my question. Can't we just all go with a vow of silence and?
I think that could happen if all 7 of us were present, but it's only going to be 6 of us.
Well, we can still all go and be quiet. 6 of us.
Well, at any rate, I'm waiting for some clarification.
Yeah, we
from
both are.
Tim
And so
and-
Tim Fox.
So I wrote back and I said, if I recall correctly, the entire planning commission took a tour of the Cypress Point site a few years ago. Remember that? They came over to look at it. How did they do that without a similar problem? He never answered that. And that was on November 6th at
Now
1:17.
they're all at the same time. Kimberly, is, you're getting information from Tim Fox, right?
Right.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, maybe, maybe you already did propose that, if, as long as,
Best course of
We don't-
action is to
we
post
don't
an agenda.
discuss things, it's more, it's just billed as a fact finding.
Right.
Just a visual, that we're not gonna really have discussion, but we'll all be there to just see and learn together.
So
So are we all willing to go and not talk to each other? I'm willing to go and
I'm
not.
I'm not sure if that's no.
I'm going to talk to any of you guys.
I prefer it. Can we just make them policy?
iTunes, you guys, whatever,
There's a public perception, and so how do
Right.
you,
that's the problem,
Right.
right?
The
how
best
do you
course,
reconcile that?
he said the best course of action is to post an agenda and make this a compliant meeting of the MCC.
I
Well,
don't
that
think,
requires public attendance and all kinds of stuff. So Kimberly, if you wouldn't mind, if you would follow up on the email I wrote him back on November 6th and see if we can't get an answer out of him. And
I intend to do it.
and then
first
let me
thing
just ask
tomorrow.
this question. I would like to go on that bus tour because I can't hike that mountain. with my
Well, so here's how it would work. They're willing to, we would be in vehicles, 2 vehicles, to accommodate at least 7 council members. So they can't accommodate more than 7. And for that day, there were 2 times proposed, 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. And I know that some of you were flexible, but others were not about the timing. So that's the other point of decision. I think everybody can do the morning except for Gus. Is that correct? Although I know it's hard for you, but you didn't just discount it.
What was the date again?
Next Friday.
Friday.
The 17th.
Yeah.
And then 1 p.m., I think everybody can do 1 p.m. except Claire.
And I could possibly do it. It would be.
I can do the afternoon. I can't do the morning. I have a management meetings.
So you're afternoon only.
Yeah, I'm afternoon.
So in that case, do we want to ask them to do this in the afternoon, and is everybody good with that?
I'm fine with that.
Let me just double check here.
Maybe a simpler way would be to just, itemize which areas we're looking at. Just have 3 people go. Take your camera and set, and when the parks is giving their, succinct explanation of this, just record it. So you may have 3 or 4 segments of video. Put it up, and then have it kind of reporting to the council and the community all at the same time at the following meeting.
Yeah, I'd like to actually see it in person.
It sounds great, but I don't know.
You go. I mean,
Well, Scott's already like, you don't need to go on the tour, right? You don't need to go.
No, but I want to.
Okay.
You don't want me to go. I'm just-
Well, I guess I'm just worried that we're gonna, I just worried Kimberly's being given an impossible problem here.
So it sounds like we can do 1 o'clock on Friday, the 17th, November 17th.
Assuming that Tim Fox will agree to some ground.
Tim Fox can help us work that out.
It sounds as though if we don't talk to each other, we're fine.
Just tell them we'll do it without signs.
Yeah.
All right. So, but we do, getting back to the agenda issue, we do plan on discussing a letter on November 29th on this topic. And I hope to God have a stormwater report before the council before that meeting. Now, I also wrote down here, Len wanted to talk about some Highway 1 maintenance plans. And I think going forward, Len's role is going to be changing to just the member of the community, and the new chair and the new officers can decide what they want to do. I used Len because of 20 years of experience in transportation and wildfire in this area, and because we didn't have the bandwidth to cover it, there are many new members. But we'll have to revisit what we do. there's certainly nothing wrong with having experienced community members help. And we lost a lot of expertise with Dave and Len and geez, I can't even remember who else. Michelle left. But I'll leave it to the council's next term to decide what they're going to do. I wouldn't be surprised if that weren't part of the problem. Right, the independent activities, people trying to find things out. So we'll try and do better on coordinating. And that's as far as I'm going on the agendas right now up through November 29th. I think we have space on December 13th to hold additional topics beyond the elections, at least one, and maybe a spillover from what we try to do on November 29th would occur on December 13th. We would only have one meeting. Len, you're on the microphone. Is there something going on there?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I'll talk with Gus and Kimberly to discuss. It's really the multimodal parallel trail. And if they want to bring it up on the 29th, we can. Otherwise, just push it.
Okay.
I do have something for the December, was it December 13th?
December 13th?
I will not be present for the meeting. I mean, I will not be present in person for the meeting. So, and I will not be able to be a voting member. I'll only be able to attend because I will be dealing with a family issue out of state.
Okay, well, so given that you're going to be absent, I think we should vote her to an important office while she's not here.
Vote against it.
All right.
I'll be able to watch helplessly.
All right. And Claire, you have an additional agenda item. Was it on the 29th?
Yeah.
Can you explain what that is?
The age-friendly coast side, people would like to come and hear what tell us what they're doing and to hear from us what we think older people on the Midcoast need, because they don't want to just focus on Half Moon Bay. They specifically want to hear from us.
Okay, that's great. So maybe we will push the transportation thing to December 13th because we're going to have a third topic for the elderly thing.
I'm sorry, I just remembered one other thing.
Yes, Ms. Vice Chair.
The veterans speaker that I wanted to have at this meeting, they were not able to come because they have a big event tomorrow. So they did propose that they could come to us at another time and just give us a short informational presentation about veteran statistics for the unincorporated area and services they provide and, the role of veterans on the coast side. So if the council is open to that, I'd like to schedule that for a meeting in the new year.
In the new year, certainly.
Yeah.
Okay, certainly.
Very good.
When you're chair, you can schedule whatever you want.
Yep. Moving up the ranks every day.
Okay. So I think that's enough on future agendas. Am I right?
Yes.
All right. So do I have, what was it? Are we adjourning by acclamation? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
No objections or adjourning. Okay. I will now stop my recording.
Hey, Kimberly, give you one more piece of